What's up, everybody? Welcome to the horrorheadspodcast. I am Rich Mallery here with my co-host Jerry Lourenco.
Hello, hello.
Hello, how's it going? So you could follow us on Instagram at horrorheadspodcast, or you can email us your love and hate at horrorheadspodcast@gmail.com. Pretty exciting show today. We have a special guest, actress, writer, producer katiekaaay is going to be on a little later, and we're going to talk about some new films. We're going to talk about a new Netflix sci-fi mind-bending thriller, It's What's Inside, and we're going to talk about a serial killer horror thriller, Strange Darling, which just came out. Before we do, though, we're going to talk a bit about how we're doing on the Horror Heads Challenge that Jerry sets up every year. And for those of you who did not tune in last week or the previous weeks, what that is every day in October, there is a different theme, and the goal is to pick a movie that fits that theme every night. So we're going to get caught up on some of the movies that we're watching. But before we do that, there was a movie I did watch as part of the challenge that I just need to talk about really quick, is The Substance.
Oh yeah.
And that honestly, like I wish we were doing a whole episode on that because that is one of the wildest fucking movies I've seen in a long time. And I loved it. Like I thought it was just, I mean, the movie's like it's gross and it's like bizarre, and even the way it's like filmed is just weird. But it's I thought it was so good. It kind of reminded me, and like there's like four different things that reminded me. I was like, it's like Neon Demon crossed with like early Peter Jackson crossed with like American Psycho, and then like I couldn't think of like other things, but like it's such a weird tonal movie, but like it's so fucking good. The plot, it basically is, I'm trying to think if I can describe this really quick. It's like this fading actress. She's like, I guess turning 50. She's played by Demi Moore, and realizing that she's kind of getting quote unquote too old to keep doing what she's doing. So she finds this miracle drug that will create a younger, better version of herself. And what needs to happen is you're allowed to live as this other self for 7 days, and then you have to live as your original self for 7 days and back and forth, and you have to keep switching back. And I don't know if that sounds interesting or not, but the movie was so fucking good. I don't know. What did you think about it?
I mean, honestly, it was probably like the sickest film of the year. I don't think there's going to be anything gorier or bloodier than it. I mean, it's like it had so many moments. It was just kind of like squeamish, and you're just like you kind of cover your eyes. Like body horror is definitely something that I don't deal with that well. And there was just so many instances of just like disgusting things happening, but also a really interesting, sci-fi plot line. I'm shocked that Demi Moore did a movie like this. I mean, it
Yeah,
was it
bold.
was crazy, and I did this for a lot of nudity and horror, and let me tell you, it definitely fit the bill because it had a ton of both, and I was not expecting either.
Yeah, a ton of nudity and a ton of blood. Like, and
Ugh.
it's funny. Like, for some reason I had the category in my head is a lot of nudity and a lot of blood. And I'm watching the movie, and the movie, unfortunately, it is a little long. It's like 2 hours and like 15 minutes or
Yeah.
something. It could be a little shorter. But like, and I'm waiting for the blood, and I would say the last like 15 minutes, there's more blood than I think I've ever seen in a movie before. The
My
character
God.
literally has a hose of blood and is spraying. It's like over the top, like, and a lot of the things in this movie are over the top, like, and I think it's done for a purpose. Like, there's tons of nudity, right? There's lots of just really close up, sexualized shots of like this one actress's butt and her like, you know,
Mm.
breasts and everything like that, and it's done like repetitively, I think, to prove like a point. So the movie's like very like over the top with a lot of things, but yeah, just when you think there's like they're done with the blood, there's like more fucking blood. It's like I was insane. Like that one scene in the theater with the hose was like ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was like so much blood, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think that explains it perfectly. It definitely took me back to like those old Peter Jackson type films, like the Dead Alive and
Yeah.
things like that. It was crazy, and I really wasn't expecting this at all. So my friend Nigel kept pushing this on me, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna watch it on Halloween. I'm like, because it's not fitting like any of my themes. I'm like, I have too many obligations of films to watch, and he's like, no, I'm looking, dude. He's like, nudity and horror, it fits. I'm like, no, it doesn't. What are you kidding me? I thought he was lying to me. And I was like, you know what? I watched it late at night just in case it was like, didn't really fit the bill. But mm, oh man, was I shocked? I'm rarely shocked, and this film was shocking. I did like it a lot, but I do bear the question. I wonder if I will watch it again. And it has nothing to do with the plot, the acting, the set pieces. Everything was awesome. It's fucking disgusting. So,
Yeah.
I would have a hard time watching it again, but maybe a year from now I'll be into it and I'll check it out.
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking about that too, and I was thinking about would I watch it again for a different reason. And the reason why I was like, would I watch it again is because of the runtime. And I was thinking like when I want to watch a movie, like how often do I put on a movie that's over 2 hours? Not that often. However, I do think with this movie, like I think you other than like that the crazy blood, like you could kind of shut it off at like, the 2 hour mark or so. Like that it kind of does kind of drag a little bit and you kind
Yeah.
of get the point. It could have ended sooner than it did. I get why it kept going. But I think I will watch it again just because it was so artistically done. And it's like one of those movies that as a filmmaker you see it and it's inspiring to see how they told this story. Just because I've never seen a movie that visually kind of looked like this and it just the way they kind of did it, it was just very interesting. And there's so many really cool shots and like different ways of kind of doing it that like I'm gonna probably watch it again just for that. However, like it is a vibe. I think it's a great movie to take if you're like high or on edibles, just because you could just sit and just kind of like get caught up in it. And I was looking at like I was trying to look at the director and I was thinking this was like a French film and the director is French. Their name is Coralie Fargo. It's a female director, and they only really had one other feature film, it's a movie called Revenge that was done like 7 years ago. So I'm just wondering like how did they like
Wait, the French film Revenge?
I
Is
think
that the
I mean
same?
I don't know. It
I
was
just I just watched that 2 nights ago.
oh really? I'm
Wait,
assuming
it
it's
can't be the
French.
same. It can't be. Wait, let me look at the. I think it's the same one because you want to know what? That film was literally th- at that time the bloodiest film I've ever seen in my entire life, and it was just nonstop. Let me see if it's the same. I can't believe I missed that. If
If
it
it is, I've
is.
never even heard of this other movie, and now I got to track it down.
Hold on one sec. Who is the? Oh my God, it
It
is.
is? Okay, now I got to
So
watch this
yeah,
one.
okay. So this film, Revenge, is without a doubt a gore fest, and that is exactly my note when we get to. I watched it on Revenge night. I can't believe it's the same. I should have known. Oh, I didn't look it up. I was just so busy. Oh man, you know what? I feel dumb for missing that, but yeah, definitely check out Revenge. I'll talk about it more when we get to it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I could probably go on about the substance like all night. I'm just still floored. I watched it last night, so I'm like still hyper about it. So anyway, before we get into the challenge, like we've been talking for a while, I do want to get to the drinking because that's kind of what we do here. And tonight I was at the liquor store really quick yesterday and I picked up a bottle of Knob Creek, aged 9 years, 100 proof. And I don't
Love
know if
it.
I've drank Knob on the show before, but I definitely have not drank 100 proof. So that's what I'm going to pour tonight and actually have, if you see it, it's a smaller bottle because I was at a kind of
Ooh.
ghetto liquor store that didn't have big bottles. So that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. How about you? What do you got?
I mean, that's awesome. I love Knob Creek. I haven't drank it on the show either. I definitely have it on my list to get to it. You know what I'm drinking, man. I told you
Oh, the Green River. Nice, nice. You
yeah,
could
the
let me
Green
know.
River.
Let me know your thoughts versus
Yeah.
how I felt about it last week.
Yeah. All right, I'm pouring it right now,
All right.
and this is exciting a moment for us. So as we take our sips, I just want to say, congratulations to us. Tonight's our 20th episode, and we live to tell. And I can't believe it. I remember when we did the first episode, we're like, we're probably not going to get past three, and here we are. We came such a long way. We did. I don't even know how many films at this point. We had a lot of guests, and I think a lot of people enjoy coming on here. So I think we're doing a good job. So I want to say cheers to us as we take these sips.
Holy shit, I totally forgot. 20 episodes in. Cheers. We made it.
Cheers. Yeah.
Oof.
Mm.
Man, oof. I'm a big fan of Knob, but this is it's got that burn, man. That 100 proof got me. It's delicious though. And someone was asking me the other day, like what I like in a bourbon. And I said it's kind of what we say on the show all the time. I like things that taste a little sweet, that have that caramel smooth taste to it. I do like a little bit of heat with it. And like Knob is definitely right up my alley. It's the kind of bourbons that I like. What do you think of the Green River? I wish I could pull up my notes
Um,
from last week.
yeah, I'm really enjoying this. It definitely has a little bit of that craft taste, but I think it's like a really light sip. It looks like it's 90 proof. Get a little smokiness at the end, and I don't know how to explain it, but I would say it's like dry. It's like a
Yeah.
dry bourbon, you know? It has like really no sweetness that I could detect from it. So if I was, I'm probably describing it wrong, and bourbon people around the world are turning off their the podcast right now, but it has like it's like a dry taste. It doesn't really have like any sweetness or any flavor, but it has a flavor, and I would say it's kind of like a little smoky. I like it.
You know, it's funny. I remember I think I had the same reaction last week. However, after like four sips or so, I think I started getting the sweetness. I'm not sure if I'm confusing
Mm,
this with another one, but like let me know how you feel like a little bit. Because I do remember once I got past that original dryness, it started getting more
really
flavorful for
start
me.
opening up. Maybe
Yeah,
once the
yeah.
ice melted and whatnot, it was letting out some flavor. I set this up for perfection. I put it in my favorite drinking glass that everything tastes delicious in, and I'm hoping that maybe that boosted it up just a little bit. But yeah, as of right now, yeah, I'm going with my initial feeling, but I'll let you know in a little bit if it changes.
Yeah, I'll check in before Katie comes on. Let me know how you're thinking. So let's talk challenge. So last week, or sorry, last episode, I believe we talked about the first 10 days, because I wasn't caught up yet. So we're gonna talk about like starting with day 11, which is anthology. And I think actually you shared what you watched, but I
Yes,
wasn't up to
I
that
did.
yet.
Yes,
And what did you
yes.
watch again?
I watched Trick or Treat, and I
Oh,
remember
right,
I was
right.
telling a story that I ignored it for many, many years, and I hated it. And then one night when I was in Chicago, it was literally the only thing on TV, and it just hit the right mood, and now I love it. I just bought a Sam decoration that I, I showed you the other
Yeah, yeah.
day. I'm like suddenly like into this film, and I feel so dumb for like ignoring it all these years. But yeah, I give that a thumbs up. What did you watch?
I ended up making a mistake and I watched Creep Show 2.
That
And
is
I
a
actually,
nostalgia.
yeah, I think I watched it after we recorded and I was a little drunk and I was like, let me just put on something that's like going to be easy to watch. And yeah, it was really bad. I mean, it just, there's three stories in it, none of which are really that interesting. I mean, it's very comic-y, which I think is the point. But you know, it's funny. I remember watching that when I was like 10 or 11 years old or whenever it was like way back in the day. And I remember liking it then. And now I'm watching it. I'm like, oh, I get it. It's like made for 10-year-olds. Like it's not made for me. But you know, that was my take on it. So yeah, I did not really care for Creep Show 2. Actually, it's funny. I started Creep Show 3, watched like 5 minutes of it, and I was like, I'm really bored. Let me just like watch something that I know I've seen before, even though it's been a long time. So that's what I ended up putting on.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of any of the creep shows, and I know that they redid it recently. They made that series, right?
Which was okay. I watched some of it
I,
and
I
like,
didn't I
you know,
didn't
it was
like it. I'm gonna be
okay.
honest with you. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
mean,
wasn't for me. I gave it an episode or two, and it was just dumb to me. It just wasn't like what I was looking for. I'm sure there's people that like it. I'm just not one of them.
okay, so next up is a film you never saw. And I tried to do something that was like a kind of like a quote like a classic-ish that I just never really saw before.
Okay.
And I watched Maniac Cop,
Oh,
which I've never seen. I've never seen any of those movies. I know they made like three or four of them. So I wanted to like watch it. I'll be honest, like it's okay. It's kind of like, you know, early. Well, I think it was done, I think it was made in like 88, but it feels like a lot older. It really feels like a late 70s kind of movie. Like it has that vibe to it. And I guess it's, you know, I think Bruce Campbell's in it, which was interesting. And the guy from Halloween 3, the lead actor, is in it. They both have
oh
like
yeah, yeah,
lead
yeah.
roles in it, which was fun. I mean, it's okay. It's like a kind of a slasher movie. It gets a little bit ridiculous. There's like a long car chase action scene towards the end. Like, you know, it wasn't a movie I needed to see. Like I, you know, wasn't pissed at it. Like maybe you'd like it a little more, but I mean, it was okay. It was just okay.
I think I saw it long, long time ago, but not memorable enough. I can't even tell you what it's about or if I liked it or not. But if you're telling me I should check it out, I'll check it out.
I mean, yeah, it's like if you've got nothing to watch, like
If
just to
I had
say,
nothing,
just to say you watched it. Like
yeah.
I wouldn't say look for it. I'm just like if you're really bored, like maybe just to see, be like say you saw it.
All right. Well, I also made a mistake.
I made a lot of mistakes, by
You
the
know,
way.
I guess this happens, and this is, and again, like there's two themes or genres in this challenge that are really here to, set you up and put you out of your comfort zone. And this is one of them, and the other one is film you hate. So this is one because you're taking a chance on something, whether you want to or not. So I was trying to make a smart decision to watch something, with my wife, something that, we could watch together, being that, during this time of the year, I'm usually just kind of like sitting in the living room by myself watching all these movies, and she's in a different room. So I put on Afraid, which was some
Oh, it's a
Blumhouse
new movie,
junk.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new movie. It wasn't good. It was quite forgettable. It was really about like the dangers of AI and how it's infiltrating society. And honestly, it didn't make me scared of AI. It just kind of made me like it more, actually. So, I was like, man, I wish like AI would just go to work for me and live live my life for me and let me do the things I want to do and let AI do the things I don't want to do. But I mean, it was pretty bad, and I don't recommend it unless Blumhouse wants to sponsor this show. Then it was amazing.
I don't
So
think they're gonna want to after what I say right now. And I was thinking about this, and I meant to say it during the episode we just talked about Speak No Evil, but I'll be honest, I don't know if I ever want to see another Blumhouse movie ever again because they're all very similar. They're not made for me.
yeah,
They're made as like a money grab, I feel like. They're not really for horror fans, I don't think. Like they're horror movies, but I just don't think I don't think they care or enough about the horror fans to like really make a good movie. I've seen too many in a row and they're all the same. They're very formulaic and kind of poorly written and just not very good. So I mean, we'll watch them for the show, but like I don't think I'm gonna go out of my way to watch any more Blumhouse movies. It's kind of like I'm just over it.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'll end up watching more. And I think they progressively got worse as the years went on. It probably is, big, giant, film studio now, and then looking at like, bottom lines and things like that. And they,
Yeah, I mean they're
they
Universal,
kind of
that's
lost
why.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they
You
lost
know?
that artistic kind of merit that they used to maybe have like when they first got started. But yeah, not for me.
Yeah, they're not making The Purge anymore, or at least that
No,
movie. Not,
no,
I mean, they'll make more
no.
Purge movies, but not like that.
Yeah, not that one.
Let's
Yeah.
see. And then next up was NC-17 rating.
Hell
What'd you give for
yeah.
that?
Oh man, so I checked out a film that I haven't watched in probably 10 years, and oh man, I'm mad at myself because this movie was fucking sick. I watched 100 Tears, which is a clown film, and it's like this big crazy clown. He has a giant meat cleaver,
Oh
and I
shit.
swear to God, maybe in the first 5 minutes he kills about 10 or 15 people in the goriest way, where he's just like basically like stomping on heads, and heads are popping, and there's like circular saws,
Oh
and he's just
shit.
torturing everyone. There was probably like four decaps so like in the first like 10 minutes, so like heads are rolling everywhere. It's a crazy crazy film. I can see why it's NC-17. It's definitely for blood and gore. There was no nudity or cursing that I could think of. It was just super, super gory. And this clown was evil, man. It was badass.
I've never seen that. I don't even, I'm not even sure if I've heard of it. And if I have, it was a long time ago. But yeah, I'll have to check that out. I watched a film that I've watched many, many times before, and I watched a Serbian film.
Oh, oof.
And yeah, look, it's a really hard film to watch for a couple of really tough scenes, but I always go back to this movie just because I love the storytelling. Like I really love how it's shot. I love just how they unravel everything. Where like again, like all this shit happens, and then the guy like basically blacks out and like learns of what happened through watching all of these different videotapes. I've never seen another movie like it or that comes close to it, and it's one of those movies where when I get kind of writer's block, sometimes I'll like put it on just because it inspires me. Even though again, take these like really brutal, graphic, hard to watch scenes that really fuck you up. There's so many like interesting things about that movie, and like it's kind of brilliant in ways too. I mean, it's definitely like It toes the line, but it's definitely one I come back to very often to watch, and I like was just in the mood to like watch again how they did it and how they made that movie. So I'm a fan of it. I really am. And I usually would not watch something like that because I don't do well with child abuse. I don't do well with rape, but it's one of those movies that like it just gets me.
I mean, people st are still talking about this film at this point. We're kind of desensitized to really any type of
Yeah, yeah.
over the top gore and violence and things like that. Yeah, that definitely strikes a couple of nerves in that film. But yeah, I only watched it like maybe once or twice. I do remember liking the atmosphere, but
Yes.
I did like that, but again, there's just too much of violence that I care not to see that stays with me. It's like that stay with you kind of violence, and I always get mad at myself like when it's like 2, 3 days later and I'm still thinking about it. I'm like, "Ah, I shouldn't have watched that."
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
not one I recommend people watch. It's just
Yeah.
one that I
Yeah.
do
They're gonna
would
watch it anyway.
you're gonna watch it
It's
anyway if you
like
haven't seen it yet, right?
yeah. It's like things you watch on a dare. It's like, oh, I dare you to watch it,
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, then you hate yourself for doing it.
Yeah, but and I think now that I've seen it like 10 times, it doesn't affect me as much, like because I've seen it so much. But yeah, it's a fucking hard one. Okay, so after that, the next one was your horror comfort film, which was
And
nice to watch
see,
something.
do you see the
Yeah,
progression? That
yeah,
there's
yeah.
thought in here. Yeah.
And I
What'd you
did watch
watch?
these two back to back. I watched the original Suspiria because that is one of my horror comfort films. I almost did Friday the 13th part four, but I know we're gonna probably do Friday the 13th episode coming up soon. So I was like, yeah, and I do watch that movie all the time anyway, but like let me save that. So yeah, I watched the original Suspiria. Again, always loved that movie. I've seen it dozens of times. And every time I watch it, I pick up something different that I hadn't seen before.
Love that film. Great film. I mean, just the coloring of it is just, oh God, it just like sucks you in, and like it's a beautiful film to watch with like this really twisted kind of supernatural story kind of spinning around with like some pure torture scenes, and yeah, very very interesting film. I mean, so far ahead of its time. I mean, I love that film. It's not what I chose, but I do love that film, and I'm probably gonna watch it right after October ends just to see it again. I watched A Wounded Fawn,
Okay.
which is a
Horror
film that,
comfort film? That's interesting.
yeah, I've been watching that for like the last probably year and a half now. And it started off slowly where I watched it and then I was like, man, I really like that film. And then I watched it again and then I watched it again. And this is probably like within the year and a half, I probably watched it 12 times.
What?
So
I've only seen
yeah,
it once.
so
I liked it, but I only watched it one
yeah,
time.
so I just love it, man. I just love the look of this film. I love the mood. I love the atmosphere. I love the isolation. I love the cabin in the woods. I like all of that. And I mean, and there's like a crazy kind of mythological Greek story going on, like kind of in the background, and it all kind of comes together at the end. And I think maybe the first few times I watched it, I was really just trying to comprehend like what was going on, and then like as I got more into it, it just kind of all made sense that you really just had to kind of pay attention to the beginning of the film to really understand the end of the film. So I don't want to ruin this for anyone who wants to check it out. If you're taking my word for it and you're like, this is a film that this guy watches all the time, I say check it out. I mean, at its essence, it's a serial killer film. It could also be an isolation horror film. It could be a few different things. But yeah, I say check it out. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a vibe. It's a vibe for sure. And you got to be in the right headspace for it, I think, just because of how it's like how it plays. But I know when I watched it, I did enjoy it. Let's see. Asian Ghost Horror was the next one. And what did you watch?
I watched Pulse, and I seen it a long, long time ago, and I watched it during a night. I was catching up on like 3 films, so I probably didn't give this film the attention that it needed, but it's good. I mean, there's some like crazy parts to it, but it's probably the wrong night for me to watch it. It's a slow.
Hmm.
It's a slow film. And, outside of like the few things that of excitement, I don't know if I should ruin it for anyone. I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to watch this, but I mean, there were just some exciting parts where you're just like, holy shit, what the hell just happened? But like 70% of it, I feel like I was watching like just like a guy staring at like a screen, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm actually a big fan of Pulse. I haven't watched it in a while, but I will agree there. It's extremely slow. It's probably not even a horror film for big portions of it. There's like a lot of dread throughout, and I think there's like, it's like social commentary basically on it's funny because the movie's probably 20 years old and it was kind of how disconnected we're becoming from each other based on
Yeah.
technology and kind of like before cell phones like were a thing now. So
And
it's
it
like
got worse since.
now we're here, yeah, and it's I do really like the movie, but it is, you're right, it's incredibly slow. There's a lot of times where nothing happens, but if you're in the mood for like just again a vibe.
Yeah, I should definitely watch it on a night where maybe I could give it more attention. I was like playing catch up and it was not the type of film that I should have rushed through because like I was just like logging off like every few minutes, like, oh, come on,
Yeah,
what's going
I'll be
on here?
honest. I don't think it's for you, and I don't think it's for you now. I think I
Oh,
enjoyed it
okay.
because I've seen it kind of when it was newer, and it was you could appreciate films like that a little more. Now it's kind of hard to get into that for like kind of the first time now. So again, because it's older, it's a little dated. The technology is really dated, so
Yeah.
it's a tough one. The American remake is awful. It's
Oh, I didn't know
as
there
you would
was one.
expect. Yeah, there was like an American remake, and it was really bad. But yeah, I do like the movie, but it's not what I would recommend people watch, especially unless you're really into Asian horror. I watched a movie that is probably my, it's interesting. It's probably my favorite Asian horror film. And I almost never enjoy movies, and I already said I like Serbian film that have rape as like a plot point. I watched Shudder for the Thai film, which does have that as part of the twist, but I love that movie just because it's like one of the few that's actually really creepy and scary. And the plot of the movie basically, and they did an American remake of this too, and it was awful. The plot of the movie is this young photographer keeps seeing images in the photos he's taking, and it's of a specific ghost that he has a past event tied to. And there's certain things in that when the twist is uncovered towards the end that really freaked me out for a long period of time. So I really like that movie, Shudder. Again, there is a scene that's difficult to watch towards the end of the movie, but I just really enjoy it. And just it makes you, it maybe it's one of those movies when I saw it for the first time, it made me go back and look at old photographs and be like, are there ghosts in my photographs that I'm missing? Like it really made me think, like you just because you just never know, right? But so I
Hey,
watched that.
gotta look.
Yeah, you never know. I didn't see any. So I
That
didn't see it.
so I don't think I've ever saw the Asian version of it. I think unfortunately I did see the American remake now that you're explaining the plot, and I don't think I enjoyed it. So
No,
yeah,
the Thai version is really creepy and really well done. I would definitely suggest checking it out. And I believe it's not that long. I think it's short too. It's like hour and 20 minutes or something.
even better.
But yeah, I would definitely recommend that if you could find it. Next up was Wes Craven film, and I already got my cut of Elm Streets because I watched Elm Street 4 and 5, even though I know Wes Craven didn't do those, but I watched those early on. So I wanted to watch something from Wes Craven that I never saw before, and I watched it might have been it might be his most recent movie or his last movie he did. I watched A Girl in the Photographs, and I did not like it. I didn't like it. It was boring. It was boring. The one thing I really didn't like about it is one of the main characters, the actor, is the guy who played Kumar. I don't know his name, but the guy from How and Kumar who played Kumar
Oh,
is like the
okay,
lead,
got
and
yeah.
he's so fucking annoying. He plays this like egotistical like photographer who's just super cool, and he's meant to be annoying, but he was just every time he was like talking, I just wanted to kill myself. I was like, this is just awful. And he's in the movie a lot, and the movie's kind of nonsensical. I would skip it. It's like a serial killer movie, but like it was boring.
Yeah, I'm not gonna check that out.
That wasn't scary.
I mean, I had to go with the classic again because I just told everyone that I watched a film with my wife on the 12th, and then 4 days went by where I didn't see her because I was watching these other movies. So I watched one of her favorites, which is Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, I
Okay,
had to go with that. You know,
Johnny
the
Depp.
classic. Yeah, Johnny Depp. Got to go with the classic, and you know, it's a classic for a reason. It's a good film. Anyone who says they don't like it, you know, come on. You know, what's not to like? At the time, it was terrifying, and now you could kind of pick up a lot of like the humor. But I mean, even if that doesn't like kind of like do anything for you, it's pretty bloody.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a good movie, good story, and I enjoyed it. So it was nice nostalgia watching that because I'm not the type of person that would like just like pull it out and put it on one night. It's just not a movie. It's not that I don't like it. It's just not a film that I watch.
I feel like people that say they don't like the movie, and again, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I think a lot of it is people that saw Freddy and other things and are just desensitized to it. And now it's like you watch it and it's like you keep thinking of that. But in the original, it's a much darker character. Like
Yeah.
there is definitely some humor and stuff like that, but it's a much darker film than any of the ones that followed it, I would say. So it's got a completely different vibe. And I think, if you go into it saying, "Oh, Freddy's not scary because I saw him in part four and he was silly," like it just got to take that out of the equation and just like appreciate it for what it was. It's scary.
Yeah.
The original's scary. It's creepy as fuck.
Yeah, for me, the series fell off a cliff after the first one, and
Yeah, I
I
mean,
I, I don't really enjoy any of them. But it is in my notes to try to revisit the later episodes. Next month when I have some time. There are some films I do want to catch up with, and I haven't seen them in 10, 15 years. So I will try to watch even the ones that you watched, even though you said they sucked. I'm gonna still check them out because it's been so long. I just want to know.
yeah, no, I hear that. I mean, the second and third one I enjoy. The rest of them are pretty hard to watch. Next, what's next?
Giant Monster. So I went with Cloverfield. I know you don't like that
I
because
hate
it's
that
found
movie.
footage, but honestly, it's fast, it's action packed. There's a giant monster, it's destroying New York City. I like it. You know?
The problem I have with that movie, it's not just that it's found footage, it's there's so much fucking shaky cam. It's really hard to watch a lot of just to pick up on what's happening because a lot of times they're running
Yeah,
or
they're just
moving
yeah,
around
it's like
and it's annoying as hell to me. It gives me a headache to watch that movie just because it's hard to focus on anything. I agree you do see a glimpse of a monster towards the end, but it's a hard one to watch. I watched this movie, it's like an independent movie or I guess independent called Gods of the Deep, and it's like a Lovecraft Cthulhu kind of
oh
movie. Group of random people that like you just don't know why they're picked for this exhibition go underwater to investigate, and of course there's like a giant monster which is Cthulhu, and they wake them up. It kind of felt like a sci-fi channel movie. That's like had the vibe of it, like so, which I'm just not into that style of movie. I'm also not a big Lovecraft fan, and like I know
nope.
lots of people nerd out over that stuff, and people love Miskatonic University and all that kind of crap, but like it's not my vibe at all. I just never got into it, so it wasn't for me. There was a giant monster, but it wasn't particularly scary. It just kind of looked like, again, like it looked like a guy in a costume that they just like made look really big. That's kind of what it felt like to me. So I wouldn't recommend that. I watched a lot of movies that I tried to watch a lot of new stuff, and a lot of it wasn't good, but that's kind of how these challenges go, right?
Yep.
Oh, Horror in a Forest. I watched something good for that. I watched, based on your recommendation, I watched that movie Storm Warning.
Oh yeah, yeah, great. Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. Like that did not go the way I thought it was gonna
Yeah.
go. Cause like I'm
Yeah.
watching it and I'm kind of like, okay, like this seems like every movie I've seen. And then it takes a turn
Yeah.
in the last half and has some of the most violent shit I've ever seen. So okay, I gotta ask a question because this happened so fast and I rewound it and I still couldn't tell what happened.
I'm not
There's
sure I'm
this
gonna remember,
okay.
but go
There's a
ahead.
scene where the woman who's captured is led up to the room of the guy that owns the house. He's like the big bad villain, and he's going to sexually assault her. And something happens where he gets a broken bottle stabbed on his dick. And I'm wondering, did she have like the broken bottle inside her vagina? And when they
Yes,
went to fuck
yep,
her, that's what, oh
yep,
my God.
yep. That's
That's what I
exactly what
thought happened. And
that's
I was like,
exactly what happened.
I've
Yep.
never seen that before in a
Yeah.
movie. But I remember
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. And I'm like, wait, did she have
Yep.
that in
That's
there?
exactly what happened.
And it makes
So
sense because they're kind of like it's basically this couple that is like they're canoers or some shit like that. And they end up on land and there's a big storm. So they like are looking for a place to like hide out and stay dry. They find this house so that it's empty and they just go into this house. And apparently the house is owned by like a bunch of criminals basically, and they kind of hold them captive. But what they don't know is that the couple that they're holding captive is actually really good at making traps and like self-defense and stuff like that. So like they design these really elaborate kind of ways to get these people. And yeah, that was fucking graphic, but I really liked it. It was not what I expected at all. Especially it's from the director of what Urban Legend and Valentine. It's like
yeah,
nothing like those movies at all. This is like
it's not. And I was nervous like what part you were going to discuss, but when you see something like that, you don't forget it. So I
yeah.
did not forget that part.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
and it's like
that
after the
was
guy gets stabbed in the dick with this bottle, or like he stabs
uh,
himself, I guess. I think it was, but
uh,
he's like running around, and you see this
yeah,
broken bottle,
it
there's
was
blood everywhere.
gory, dude,
It was
gory.
fucking gnarly.
Yeah,
Oh,
that movie takes a turn. I did not watch anything that graphic. I just stuck with a modern classic. I went with Cabin in the Woods.
okay.
Makes sense for Forest. It's a good movie.
I love that movie.
It's always been a good movie. And if any movie deserved a sequel, it was probably that one. Never happened. Very disappointing, but I like the film, and I don't think there's much I need to speak about it. A lot of good monsters in it, and I think a lot of like what you don't see is probably maybe more interesting than what you do see, but it's still a very good film. The concept was great, and I really would have liked to see that world expanded a lot more because there was a lot of cool stuff that like didn't come to fruition.
Yeah, that's one of those movies where I didn't want to watch it for a long time because it just sounded dumb. And then when I watched it, I was like, okay, okay. And then I got so into it. I love that movie. I watched it all the time. Okay, next up was psychological horror.
Psychological. So this is one of your favorites. So I'm
It
curious what
is.
you watch, but you made a mistake.
I made a mistake. Yeah, I watched this movie that like sounded really interesting. It was called The Sleep Experiment. And what it was they take
That
these
like a sleep study?
it's like a sleep study. Yeah, yeah.
That's an inside
Inside
joke.
joke.
Sorry, guys.
And they take these like I think 5 or 6 prisoners, and they say we're gonna do an experiment where you need to stay awake for 30 days, and if we do, we'll commute your sentence. And basically, it's what happens to these men over this 30-day period. And what I didn't like about the movie is it kind of cuts back and forth between what's actually happening in the study and then people that are like reviewing the study like years later. And it just kind of, I don't know, the whole thing was kind of really boring. And it's interesting. It's very similar, but kind of similar to this movie Double Blind that I talked about recently. That was much
Yeah, I
better.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, this wasn't, it was kind of boring. I mean, it was okay. I think I also wasn't in the right headspace for it. It's more drama than anything else, and it kind of builds to something, but it takes a long time to get going. So I would not recommend the sleep experiment.
Always disappointing when you blow like one of your favorite
Yeah.
genres or themes, you know. You
And it
put
sounded
pressure on
interesting
yourself.
too. It
Yeah,
sounded
you put
really
that
interesting.
pressure and it
Yeah.
doesn't work out. I ended up watching I Trapped the Devil because I thought we had to watch it for the
Oh, how
podcast.
was that?
So I thought I was killing two birds with one stone. It was fucking slow.
Really?
I mean,
Good
real
thing we didn't do it on the
yeah,
podcast.
interesting concept, but it stops at the concept. I mean, great acting, but just this is the dark, slow film. By dark, I mean it's like barely lit. It's just everything's like in the dark, and that gets annoying. Like in a basement, I guess imagine that, like in a basement or a dimly lit house where you can't really see anything, like where like a fireplace is like lighting the scene, and that just gets old after a while, like when you're watching it. Like I can't see anything that's happening. It's like I don't care. So there's mumbling and talking, and it really gets really deep into dialogue. But it wasn't good enough to hold my interest, the dialogue. So I would say I didn't like that. I don't recommend it.
Cool. So a few more to kind of get to before Katie comes on. This was a tough one, decades binge, where you had to pick a movie from the 70s, one from the 80s, and one from the 90s, which I was pissed off about it. But I did do them all.
Oh, you did.
I did. I started with the 1972 classic Piranha.
Ooh, that's my favorite film.
Have you seen it in a long time though? I don't know.
I watch it
It's
all the time. I
okay.
watch it every year.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's
quirky,
goofy. It's
bizarre film.
goofy.
It's
Yeah,
very
it's
goofy.
yeah.
It's
I
very
love
goofy.
it.
And then I watched I think it's a 1980 movie called Don't Go in the House. Have you ever seen it?
No, I did not.
It's similar to Maniac, but
Oh,
not as
okay.
good. It's basically this guy who's has mother issues and he burns women alive with a flamethrower and then keeps their corpses. It could have been good. I didn't really like the lead actor. Like I just didn't feel like he was crazy enough. Like he just wasn't like I don't know. He just kind of like annoyed me. I think it's one of those like worth watching and like maybe you like it. It's like it's a one of those that went under the radar, I think. And I'm not sure if it came out before Maniac or after, but it kind of had that vibe to it. And then for 90s, I made a mistake and I watched another Wes Craven movie. And really, I just watched it because I got tired of scrolling for shit. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
1990, whatever, I'll watch this. I watched Wishmaster,
Oh,
which I always thought was a Clive Barker movie, but it's Wes Craven, and it was fucking awful. Like I don't know how that became a franchise.
not a fan. I was lucky. I watched three bangers, Rich.
Oh, cool.
Like usually I plan these films out like so far in advance, but I swear to God, I don't know if we keep saying it on the show, but it's just been a crazy month for all of us. And trying to fit this in has been difficult. So I just was kind of flying at the, seat of my pants here and just picking out things randomly. So I went with Black Christmas, which I haven't seen in a very, very long time. Great film. Loved it. I mean, it was creepy, and you could see like why it's kind of like the foundation of a lot of, slasher films. It was awesome.
What about that 45 minutes in the middle where nothing happens?
Yeah, that gets a little annoying, but it's a mood, you know.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, I
mood.
get it.
It's a 70s film, and you just expect that, you know. Then I watched one that we both learned that we liked recently. I watched Chopping Mall.
Mm,
It was fun
yeah.
to rewatch that. Man, wow, a lot of nudity in that film. I forget all the time. You just don't expect it. A lot of nudity and a lot of action and a lot of like, robots. I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's stupid. It's fun. So it's like, why not? And those are two films I've seen before. And I was like, I want to see something that I never watched. And I took a chance. I ignored this since when it came out, which was actually on the dot 1990, and it was Cemetery Man. Have you ever seen this?
Never seen it.
Holy shit. What a bonkers film this is. It is crazy. It's like Brain Dead, it's like Dead Alive. It's like that. It's just it's a crazy, crazy film. I'm gonna say I liked it and I'm gonna watch it again, and I can't believe I missed it all these years.
Yeah, I'll need to check that out because I've never seen it. So, okay, let's do two more categories and then we'll bring Katie on because I only got to two more categories.
Cool,
I'm
cool.
behind.
No, yeah, that's
Um,
all right, man.
yeah, yeah. So, Deep South Slasher, I did the remake. I guess it's the remake of A Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Which
that's all
I which
right.
was awesome. Yeah, it was good. I mean, there
Yeah,
was a
that's all
lot of
right.
good kills. There's good like some good blood. Like I liked it. I forget the original. I haven't seen that in so long, but I liked it. I would watch it again. I'm surprised I haven't watched it in so long. I think I saw it when it came out and then I forgot about it. And
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Did you do Pandemic, Epidemic?
oh shit, did I skip that? Yeah, for Pandemic, I did It Comes at Night, which I've seen before. And I like the movie. It's a slow psychological kind of thriller. Um, It Comes at Night. Yeah, I like that. Well, how about you?
So for Pandemic, I did Sick, which is came out during COVID, and it has a lot of those like overtones to it, but this movie is slick. This movie's like fast. It's like the people that did Scream did it, and it really has like that feeling to it. There's some gore, and there's like this one kind of crazy scene that like I always forget that's in the film, and it's like next level kind of like gory. So I'm gonna say check that one out. I like it a lot. It's a fast movie, like it's nonstop. It's basically like a full-blown chase scene the whole film. For Deep South Slasher, now this is another film that I've just been fighting and fighting, and I don't understand why I didn't like it. And finally, I gave it another chance and I liked it. So I watched Hatchet, and
Interesting, because I watched it last year for the challenge and I hated it.
yeah,
I hate the writing. The writing is just so annoying to me.
I think Victor Crowley is an awesome like monster, and I mean it has like Terrifier gore levels
Oh
to it.
yeah, yeah.
It is a sick movie, and I guarantee that's where Damien Leone got a lot of his inspiration from this film. It's just really like old school special effects that are gross and body parts going everywhere and a giant monster like Hercules looking kind of like professional wrestler looking monster. It was cool. I liked it this time. Hated it every other time I watched it. I liked it this time, and I actually watched Victor Crowley last year for one
Which
of
is part
them,
four,
some
I
sort of
think.
slasher.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if I liked it or not. I don't remember, but now I have to go revisit it because I did like this.
Yeah, maybe it's just the mood. You're right. The gore is over the top. There's a lot of violence, but I just hated the dialogue so much. It was just so annoying to me. And I don't know. It was hard for me to like get through it. And then the last one that I did was again, we already talked about the substance for
Yeah,
More Blood and Horror. That's where I kind of tapped out. I didn't get past that. So what
yeah,
I
no
will
problem. We
do
still have
is
a few days.
I got time to catch up and we will go through the rest of the list on our next episode. Next up for me is Horror Film You Hate, which I'm super stoked
Yeah.
about. I don't know what I'm going to watch yet, but looking forward to that. So, all right, cool. Well, that's the challenge of where we're at now. Now we have our special guest is here. Please welcome actress, producer, writer Katie Kay.
Hello,
Woo.
hello.
And Katie is drinking a White Claw. I don't know what flavor that is, but it looks like pineapple. What do you got?
Pineapple.
She's drinking a pineapple White Claw. And so how I met Katie, it's an interesting story to me anyway, is Katie reached out to me, I think on Instagram, telling me how much she loved my movie We Are Wolves, and if you want to get my attention, just praise me and tell me how good my movie is. And and like I never met her before. She's like, I'm about to watch this movie, blah blah blah, and like then she told me how much she loved it, and I was like, all right, we could be friends. Let's hang out. And then we ended up like getting lunch, I think. And what I really like, what drew me to Katie was she is such a huge movie fan, and so much that you go to the movies multiple times a week. Like you're always going to the
Wow.
Yeah.
theater, which is super cool. And like you see all different kinds of stuff, and like you see everything from like weird art house things to like you were just saying you went to like you saw Borderlands, like so
Yeah.
you go check out it all, which I thought was really cool. And then like over meeting you, I just really liked your vibe, and I was like, man, I really want to cast her in something. And I just happened to be writing this movie, Majoid Origins, and like I kind of really wrote the role kind of based on like kind of what I like knew about you from like getting to know you and things like that. And luckily you took the role and our movie just came out and it's doing really well. So super stoked to again have you on board with that. And I guess the first question is I want to ask is like, what was it like working on a movie with such a talented director?
Man, I was intimidated. I was scared to even take, I mean, I was scared to take the role because I knew it was going to have like a couple nude scenes in it, which I'd never done before. But ultimately, we were on set and Rich made me feel extremely comfortable just with the entire film as a whole, the entire process. It was also my first lead in a feature. So I was just like really honored that Rich trusted me enough with the character and with being Eve. And hopefully, I did a satisfactory job.
Well,
As
it's doing
Eve, and
well, so yes.
it's doing well. Yeah, yeah. It's been really fun to read all the reviews. I know you were like, Katie, don't read the reviews, but ultimately the good outweighs the bad, and it's been really fun to like even reply to some people and be like, them answer me like, "Oh my God, Eve answered."
The AI answered.
Interact with the fans.
That's funny. So,
Yeah, so it's been really fun.
cool, awesome. Well, again, super stoked that again the that you were on board and that the movie came out and is doing great. But I guess I want to ask you some questions about. It's funny because we're going to talk about two movies later. We're going to talk about this movie, It's What's Inside, and we're going to talk about this movie, Strange Darling. And sometimes when I watch a movie, and this happened when I was watching Strange Darling, I was thinking like, man, like this is a movie that like I wish I'd made. Like just like I like the style
Mm.
of it, like I liked how the storytelling was done. Not to say I like love the movie, but I'm like, oh, I wish I could have done this movie. So as like an actress give me a role or two where you're like, oh man, I wish I would have played that role. I always like to know what people like are thinking.
Well, Willa Fitzgerald and Strange Darling was one of them. That's all I could think about was like, I want to be doing that. Have you watched the movie Talk to Me about the hand?
Yeah, I actually really liked it. I didn't think I would like it, but really did like it.
Me too. I would love to play something that's the way she had to portray someone who was like possessed and then dealing with grief and all these like different emotions, like the main character in Talk to Me. I would have loved to do that. And then Sucker Punch. I would love to do a film like Sucker Punch where it's like this group of girls in an asylum and they're trying to figure out how to escape and working with each other. I think those are top three right now that have been on my mind. Like, oh, I want to do something like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen Sucker Punch in a long time, but I was definitely a fan of that movie. I love movies where it's like kind of the real world and like the fantasy world and how they kind of like
Yeah.
collide, I guess would be the right word, or like how they kind of coexist. Kind of like it made me think of not similar, but like Pan's Labyrinth, which is one of my favorite movies.
Hmm.
How like the main character is like doing things in this other world that impact what's happening in the real world. That's what kind of Sucker Punch is. But yeah, big fan of that movie.
Right, right. I really like working on genre films like sci-fi, fantasy, horror. Like I like things that are breach the realm of reality, of course. So
Yeah,
yeah.
what have you seen lately like that's new? Like have you gone to the theaters recently?
I have. Let me pull up my letterbox. I'll tell you right now. Oh, I just watched Anora, another one I would have loved to do.
What's that? I don't know what that movie is.
Oh, it's the new Sean Baker. It won the Palme d'Or at Cannes this year. It's about a sex worker who falls in love with the son of a Russian oligarch.
Okay.
Ultimately, like it's a comedy at first, and then it breaks your heart at the end. I'm not gonna give away spoilers, but it's very good. The new, yeah, it's Sean Baker. What else did I watch? I watched, this isn't like a new film that's in theaters, but I watched VHS Beyond. It's on Shudder. Have you guys seen that one?
Not that one, no.
Yeah, I don't know. I like. Is it all found footage?
Yeah, it's found footage. Yeah.
Found
Oh, she's
footage.
showing us the picture. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
watch
it's found
anything that's found
footage.
footage. Jerry actually really likes found footage, but I
I
do
do, yeah.
not.
Didn't check that one yet, but I will.
It's found footage about aliens.
Love it.
Okay, I
So
do like
perfect.
aliens.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like it's a bunch of people. It's basically found footage of people wearing body cams and their interactions with aliens, and it's super gory and like has these insane visuals and shock factor. I would definitely say like we're not making a lot of like very shocking, violent movies like that these days, but that is one of them. So.
So like one thing that like I was really impressing about Katie is like the amount of prep work you do to get into a role. And like I've made like 10 films and like people have their various processes, but like you get so detailed with like you become the character when you're acting. So I'd love to kind of like to talk about a little bit like what is your process like just so you got like like you got cast in this in Majoid Origins to play Eve, which is the lead. Like how did you approach that? Like and how do you approach like roles like that?
I would say the biggest part of my process is like living as the character. So first I take the script and I read it, I don't know, 100 times, and then I start to break it down, and understand what the character's like underlying objective is throughout the entire film, what their needs are, create my backstory. But then the biggest part for me, I'm like very physical as an actor for so like the physical plane is really important in my prep. Like even walking around my apartment as Eve or as whatever character I'm playing and thinking exclusively Eve thoughts and maybe even going to the store or going to my friend's house like as that character in their voice and their mannerisms and creating like the physical life of the character. So like yeah, how they talk, how they move. And then I feel like that's how I really start to embody it is like through the physical plane more than like imagination. I mean, imagination is really important, but then it becomes like embodying it in my body. I think the biggest thing is like in acting school, at least we would do this thing where we like take our character outside and that's how you see if you're like really that. So it's like when you're, going to the shop or to a restaurant and I'm Eve and not Katie, it's gonna feel totally different. And then coming home, putting it away, and then starting again the next day.
Yeah, and what I love too, it's like so the movie Major Origins is a sequel to another movie, and you've also done another movie where you played an AI. And what I also loved is that you played Eve very different than the original actress played the AI, and you played her very different than you played in the other film. So I really liked how you kind of put a whole different spin on it, and it really makes the movie. It makes it very different, and like the character really feels alive, and you really feel for them. So like I really appreciate like how you could kind of again just basically made your own world.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I encompass a lot of things into it. Like I have for all the characters I play, I have like a journal and I have playlists. So it's like maybe hundreds of songs that make me think of the film itself or make me think of the character. And then it just becomes this like a holistic experience of like eating a food that the character would eat or like listening to all that music and interacting with people and walking like her. And then it's like over time you just like slowly morph into it.
It's just so cool how seriously you take it. You know, like, you're doing like, again like an indie movie, right? But like you really made it your life for that period of time, which again I really respected, really appreciated, like
Aw.
the amount of work you put in, and it means a lot. And yeah,
It was
thank you.
so fun.
Yeah, yeah, and it was a fun shoot. It was like a really fast paced shoot, but we definitely had a blast. We got a lot
Oh
done.
yeah.
So, okay, so this is a horror podcast, so we do need to ask some horror related questions. So, if you had to pick like three of your top like horror films, or actually, let's start with this. Like, what type of genre of horror films like would you say you like? Supernatural, psychological? Like, what's like your vibe?
I would say psychological is number one. And then, yeah, probably psychological, and then paranormal, and then slasher.
Oh, you're a slasher fan. I actually did not know that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What would
Like
you
I
say your
love
favorite?
Scream.
Oh, I was gonna say, what is your favorite slasher movie? If you had to pick like one, would it be Scream?
Ooh. Oh my gosh, I actually just watched this one. Hold on, I have to find, I forget even the name of it, but it was on Shudder. I would say though, like Halloween 1978 and like Scream love. But it's this one on Shudder that it's not like a huge movie or anything, but let me try to find it. Hold on. I'll tell you right now.
Yeah,
If
try
I
to.
can't find it, we'll have to add it. But it was so good. It was a slasher. It was incredible.
Katie is constantly telling me about movies I need to check out. Like I've never met anybody that watches as many movies as she does. It's
That's
ridiculous.
awesome.
I'm gonna find the slasher over time, and we'll come back to that one.
We'll
But
come back to it.
it's on the Shutter.
Okay, so like all right, let's forget slasher
I
for a
literally
second.
have to know. So it's
I
like,
know.
No, you
I
will
can't
not know.
wait. Pause the fucking recording. I have to know.
Wait till she finishes the
All
White
right, pause,
Claw.
pause.
It'll come to her when she's done with the White Claw.
Yeah, it's all right.
Same, I'm like, ah.
So like what would you say then if you had to pick like I know it's tough to do, but top three like horror films, like what would you pick? And not the ones you just named, you have to pick other ones.
Maybe like Insidious,
Okay.
Mm.
Grave Encounters.
Found footage. Did you ever see
Um,
that, Jerry? Did you watch that one?
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
like found footage.
Do you?
There's two of them. It's
Um,
it's it's good.
So, Katie,
Good series.
I gotta ask about found footage just to cut you off. What do you like about found footage movies? And you know, you probably have a different perspective of them than I do. Like,
yeah.
what is it that draws you in? Is it is it the story? Is it just the storytelling? Like,
I think it's like as an actor, it's really easy for me to feel like I'm actually in something. So then you take a genre like found footage and I feel like I'm there with them. I feel like I'm in the woods and I'm like with
Hell
those
yeah.
teenagers and we're all doing this together. And like I love Blair Witch. I also loved Late Night with the Devil because I watched it in the theater and I felt like I was an audience member of that film.
yeah, no, we were actually talking about that, and I watched it in the theater. Jerry watched it at home, and we have completely different experiences. Because I don't know if it's a quote unquote good movie, because it's kind of like okay, but when you do see it in the theater, you I felt the same way, where I felt like I was in the audience of the show, and it made it more real. And I think what I didn't like about that movie is the times where it would shift to black and white, like kind of when they're on the commercial breaks, because then that took
hmm
me out of the experience of me being a voyeur. And I felt like if they just would have
Yeah.
kept that all throughout and kind of like it would have made me feel more a part of it. Like again, like I'm a crew member, like listening into this conversation versus, oh yeah, you're watching a movie again. But I thought they were really effective with that. And I don't think I've seen a movie where I actually felt like I was physically there. Like that was one of the few times I felt that. So I appreciate what they did there. Something really cool and special.
Yeah, I really like I like in horror when you feel like that's actually maybe actually Talk to Me is my third favorite horror film. I know it's like a newer one, maybe 2022, right? But what I liked about that movie was like you especially at the end when like all the lights are shutting off and it's like the metaphor for like death. I felt like oh my God, it felt like personal and that like dread. There's like this overlying feeling of dread kind of like we said Maidroid has. I like that feeling for some reason. It's I don't know, that sounds so weird, but when a movie really feels like dreadful.
I love you laughed when you said that, but like I I totally agree with you there. I would say that I'm a huge fan of that. And I think that's why I really appreciate a lot of movies from like the 70s. Like they always a lot of them have that feel of like that something bad is gonna happen, or they just feel like and I definitely appreciate it in films like take like a Paul Schrader kind of movie or something like that, where it's like even when it's like just drama focused, like you just know that like it's not gonna go well for this character at some point. And that's what I would say those are the movies I like the best, or ones that have that feel throughout. Even if nothing's happening, like if I just feel that it's really impactful.
Yeah, I know you said you didn't necessarily like this. I actually didn't end up watching it, but the Skinamarink movie, like I
Oh
think
yeah.
maybe that's why some people liked it. Some people were saying that it's because it has that feeling of like dread throughout, or you know something bad is gonna happen. I have to watch it and then report back. But
Yeah, so like it does feel dread. However, it's like this is my 2 second review of the movie. It's like a camera angle of the corner of the ceiling for 2 minutes, which it's like 2 hours of that is
Who
really
cares?
boring. Yeah. Like I'm sure like I understand I guess why people like that movie. For me, I was just so bored because nothing like it's not even that nothing's happening. It's just I'm literally looking at the same thing for 2 minutes and it was like it was different. It was different.
right.
I give them credit for doing something different and I'm happy people gave it a chance and liked it, but yeah, not for me. I had a hard time with that one, and I don't even know if I got through it all the way. I think at some point I bailed because I was just like, you know
No,
what?
I
Even if something bad
understand.
happens, I don't care. But like, I give anyone credit who does something that I've never seen before, and that was something I'd never seen before. And I think that's kind of what it is. It's like an artist or a filmmaker or an actress, like writer, whatever it is. Like if you could do something, make a new character or a new way of even if it's you're telling the same story in a different way, like I really admire that in people. And like that's what I want to see because we've seen it all before. Like if you show me something different, I'm like, how did you think of that? Um,
How did you think of that? Yeah, that's true. He's actually making, I just read on Variety or something where he's making his second film now. So I'm curious to see like what else is in his brain, you know?
have you seen? And I think we talked about this, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I could watch that. Have you seen The Substance yet, Katie? We were just talking about that.
No. Okay, I do love bo body horror. Like I watched Swallow, that was really good. But for some reason I can't watch The Substance right now. Like I have to maybe in like a year I'll watch it.
Yeah, so I said this like at the top of I think I spent the first 5 minutes raving about that movie. It's like one of the wildest and like I'm gonna say one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. And like
Wow.
it's the storytelling, it's the filmmaking is like amazing. Like they do some interesting things in it that I've never seen before. And it's a vibe, but it's super cool. It is fucking disgusting though, and it's the body horror elements, the sound design, it's gross and it's hard to watch, but the filmmakers Jerry said she did another movie called Revenge I need to check out, but like I'm super stoked to see anything that they do because I've never seen
Oh,
a
it's a
movie like this
female. That's
before.
cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
It's a French female director,
Oh,
which
Coralie. Oh, right, Coralie.
yeah, which
Okay,
I'd
okay.
never
Uh-huh.
heard of, but like the movie's fucking bizarre and wild and like it makes me want to make a movie. Like it's like one of those you see it, you're like, damn, I got to think of something like that. So okay, so
Oh
we're
my God,
gonna
yeah.
yeah, like I just love that feeling where it's like, damn, how did they do that? Like I got to do that.
Hmm.
So Katie, how do people find you? Like how do we stalk you and tell you how amazing you are on Maydroid?
All right, my social security. I'm just kidding. Well, my Instagram is I don't really use other social media, but it's at Katie, Katie, K triple A. And same as my website, www.katiekaaay.com. And that's pretty much it. I don't use TikTok. I don't use anything else. It's too distracting for me. I have ADHD and like anything that triggers like my a dopamine release, like I get stuck. So I don't have TikTok.
Yeah, I have a hard time with TikTok too. Like you go down a hole with that, and like before I know it, I have like
Yeah.
a huge headache, and I'm like wasted a half hour.
Mm-hmm.
3 hours went by. It's like, what the hell
3 hours.
happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what am I
So, Katie,
doing?
what do you have coming up? Like, what do you have going on next? Like, are you working on anything? Is anything coming out? Like, what can we get excited about? What's next for Katie K?
Okay, so I just finished 6 weeks of a play about women's rights. We just wrapped 2 weekends ago. That was really cool. We got some like reviews from Stage Raw and got to have this thing done before the election, which was really important for us. And then also I have a Halloween themed horror short coming out on Halloween on YouTube. Our last one, I did the first one, which got like maybe 300,000 views. So we'll see what this one does. But either way, it was really fun to be a part of it.
What's it called?
And
Like,
then
what is it?
it's called Haddonfield.
Oh, so is it like Halloween, like adjacent to like Michael Myers? Like, what's the?
It's adjacent. It is adjacent to Michael Myers. It's like a fun thing that we did, like literally Halloween theme. Like Michael Myers is in it. But we can't, I don't think we can use the word Michael anyways, or maybe we can because we're not profiting off of it, but
Michael Myers is in it. Yeah.
but yeah, so I have that coming out and then I'm going to be in this horror show which I can't talk about. And then we'll see a lot of horror stuff, so who knows.
Very cool. New Scream Queen coming.
New Scream Queen, exactly.
And then at some point, Katie and I are going to do a movie called Yo-Yo Girl Cop, which is a maybe like an
Yes.
Asian movie. It's about a basically a female who uses a yo-yo as a weapon. It's going to be super fun. I can't wait to do
Like the way that sounds. Hell yeah.
I am so excited. Like, I mean, honestly, anything I do with Rich is awesome, but this is going to be just like next level.
Yeah, keep praising me. Tell me how great I am. And for those of you at home, if you want the lead in my next movie, just reach out and tell me how much you love me. And then it's not easy. You know, no audition. Like Katie didn't audition. She just like told me how great I was, and I was like, fine, you could be the lead.
And
That's kind
that's
of how
it.
I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
was like,
just don't fuck it up. That's it. You know.
oh my God. And then he sent me the script and honestly, I loved it. Like Rich knows like I was raving about it. I'm like, Rich, like I want to like put $1 million into this. The only problem is I don't have it.
I know it's one of the best reactions I ever got because I sent you the script and I was kind of like, I don't know what you're gonna think of this bizarre like little movie, but yeah, I was super stoked when you actually like were serious
Loved
and weren't
it.
kidding, you know.
No, I was dead serious. I thought it was so, because also I think like beyond horror, I just love like philosophy when people throw like philosophy into a film, and I Matroid Origins was doing a lot of that. And again, like I don't know if every person who watches it is gonna view it through that lens, but a lot of people have, and it's been really cool to be like, oh my gosh, like what Rich did here is actually really deep and much deeper than just like, a film about a droid in in a maid costume, but it's actually got like substance, you know?
Yeah, that's what I love in the reviews. They're like, yeah, like I was expecting it to be like this softcore movie, and then it's actually was thinking, and it made me think a little bit. And I appreciate
It was
that.
thinking, yeah. One person was like, okay, they wrote something along the lines of like my performance made them think of like Joaquin Phoenix in another movie, and I was like, oh my God, like thank you. That is so cool.
My favorite is I think I shared this with Katie was like I get a lot of weirdos emailing me and like I always get that for Majoid. Majoid's like the only one where people kind of reach out to me and people were asking me if there was any like nudity of Katie that I cut out of the movie that they could have for a price. And I was just,
Wow.
like, but
The way
they
he
phrased it
worded
really
it.
nice. They're just like he wrote this like paragraph about like how much he really liked the movie. And he's like I noticed there's like a little more nudity in the first one, and then I read the casting notices, and like there was nude scenes that you didn't shoot, or did you shoot them? And if you did, can I maybe see the footage? Or like I'll pay for a director's
A
cut.
lunatic.
I know, but it was so polite and like it was so bizarre that the guy was basically like asking for like, do I have any like cutting room floor footage of like Katie's butt that I can like
It's
share with
like
him? And it's like
Diaries of a Madman right
like yeah,
there. That's what you're
sure,
that's what
sure,
you're
buddy.
reading. Oh my God.
It was so funny. I get the weirdest fucking
It
emails.
was it was so funny. He was like, I started to think, and an android wouldn't be conscious of her body, so why was the cut at the waist?
Yeah, she would have been naked more, right? If like I was an android, like I would
Uh,
have been naked more, and I wouldn't like what are you talking about?
Yeah, I was like, okay, great,
I was
very
like,
nice way to put it.
yeah, I was like, give us money for the third one, and then maybe we'll get Katie's butt in that
They
one.
want a goth major. I'll be goth major.
Oh,
Like
oh yeah, that was another comment is that people want a goth maid droid, which I think is an amazing idea. So I want to do
I
yeah.
like that.
that.
He goes, I'll contribute to the Kickstarter for a goth major. And I was like, all right, sounds good.
Sure, just give us money. That's really all I care
Mhm,
about.
exactly.
So I see Katie like getting really close to maybe finishing that White Claw, and I know Jerry had
Uh-oh.
like some kind of drinking game he wanted to. Oh shit, is it finished or
I'll get another one, don't worry.
okay? All
May
right.
have to get another one. Yeah. And plot twist, that weird guy is probably like our number one listener. And now he's going to give us like 1 star on Spotify, Rich. So we
Oh my
love that guy,
gosh.
even though he's weird.
Yeah, just DM me.
Yes.
I might have a still or something. Cool. So we have two movies that we are going to talk about. We're going to talk about this new movie on Netflix, It's What's Inside, and we're going to talk about this other movie, Strange Darling, which I'm not sure how you could find, but it probably will be on platforms soon. Before we get into that, though, this is our 20th episode, which is really exciting because Jerry and I were saying like we didn't think we'd get past one. We're like, how are two drunks like us going to do this every week? But we got to 20, and that's really great. And excited to have Katie here. And I think Jerry, did you have something planned for celebration?
Yeah, I did. I put together a little drinking game for us all to play. And Katie, I know you literally just met me like 15 minutes ago, and this is going to be like it's like the worst introduction ever because we're just going to be drinking like profusely in the next few seconds. So I was really excited to hear that you're like really into films. You got the letterbox account, so I know you're doing your reviews and you're doing everything, and you're giving your ratings. Well, I put together a little drinking game here where I really kind of dug into like the backlog of the horror heads. And I went all the way back in time to our first few episodes. And the name of this drinking game is called What the Fuck Did Rich Rate It? And basically what it is,
I don't know.
it's a game
Oh.
where you're going to guess what Rich rated a film based on exactly what he said in the podcast. Now, I have the list here, and this is how it's
Hmm.
going to work. We do a film rating between 0 and 5, and you could
Hmm.
do halves in between. So you're going to guess the number that Rich actually rated it. If you get it right, I will drink that number, whatever that number is. But if you get it wrong, you sip the difference between what was right and what was wrong. So just for example, if he gave it a 2, you said he gave it a 4, that's 2 sips for you. Now
Okay.
how we're going to include Rich,
Ah,
gets to pick
I was hoping
he
I could
gets to
stay out of
pick
this.
one of us that he's going to play with. He's either going to be on my team or he's going to be on your team. So
Aha.
if he's on your team when you drink, he drinks. If he's on my team, he's going to drink when I drink. Now, everyone who's ever listened to this show knows I'm the biggest loser of all time. So I highly doubt he's going to pick me because I lose every single game, even though I invent them. So does it make sense? And do you want to play?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
it makes sense. Okay.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
and
makes sense and I want to play.
Okay, okay.
yeah,
Do you consent to this? Because like this
I
is important.
do.
Okay, okay.
and
Verbally.
you're gonna figure out what kind of shitty taste that Rich has in films. 'Cause, I mean, I think that's really what's gonna like stand out here. So I didn't do all our films. I just went back really, really far to the beginning. So if everyone has a drink, we'll get started with the first one. So Rich, my question for you is, who are you teaming up with tonight for the 20th episode?
So I'm going to pick my ride or die, katiekaaay, and we are going to
All
go
right.
into this together.
Okay.
That's what we're
All
gonna do.
right.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be with Katie, but like, so did you do ones that are halves? Because I'm just thinking that makes it more challenging for her to pick the half.
Yeah, there are some halves in here. Yeah, a couple,
You know
not
what? Fuck it.
many,
Who
but
cares?
there's a couple. It's a,
All
it's
right.
a, it's a drinking game,
I'll
Rich.
try.
And remember, you guys are just drinking the difference. I have to drink the whole amount if
Ah,
True.
okay, you're
right.
right.
So
So if you
I
pick
mean,
two and a half, like it's not gonna be so for everything.
I
It's not
mean,
gonna be
if
so
you just
bad.
picked a three, that's like a half a sip. But if like you nail a five, I gotta take 5 sips. So this could be pretty bad for me. But we're gonna see how it goes. So we're gonna start with one, and I'm sure I'm gonna have to repeat the rules again for Rich after a couple seconds because that's normally how it goes. But I think it's pretty easy, and I'm gonna basically just name the film right now, and Katie, just guess between 0 and 5 what Rich rated it. Are you ready?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Don't let me down, Katie.
Here,
I'm
here it
not.
is. One of the first films we ever talked about. Night Swim. What did Rich give Night Swim?
2.5.
Wow, so close, but wrong. He actually gave it a 2. So you
Close.
two have to drink a
Half
half
a
a sip.
sip.
That's
Okay.
easy. All
Okay.
right. So yeah, we got the flow. We got the flow now. So
Okay,
now
that's
we
a
know how
full
this
sip. Hold
works.
on. That was a big
That was
sip.
kind of a full sip.
I have a couple here. We actually reviewed 60 movies, but I don't have 60 here. I only have a few.
Okay.
All right,
Okay,
ready?
okay.
All right, moving on to the next one. Cabin Fever.
She's really doing the math. She's like, let's
Mm,
see.
I'm thinking because I've seen a lot of these too, and I know Rich's taste, but 3.
very, very close again. He actually gave it 4.
Ooh.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep,
I
yep.
liked Cabin Fever, yeah.
So that's 1 sip each.
Okay.
So this is pretty cool. So we're like right in this Eli Roth pocket right now. So Thanksgiving.
4.
Wow, you're so close. Oh my
Oh, what
God.
did I give
You're
it?
like you're so 3.5.
All right, all
You're
right.
It's these
so
halves. It's the
yeah,
halves. You're
That's
you
what I
right.
are
was saying.
so
The halves are gonna
like
fuck us
it's
up.
almost it is so close though. I
At least
can't
I'm
even
in the
believe it's this.
ballpark.
Yeah, I can't even believe
Yeah.
it's this close.
And you know
All
what?
right.
Here's the thing. Like, based on how drunk I am, it could go a half either way. Like, that's like the margin of error. Like, if I'm sober, I give it a 3. If I'm drunk, it's 3.5. I get generous sometimes.
Drunk and 3.5.
All right. So this might be a curveball here. I wonder because you
Okay.
know this could go in many many different directions. I'm curious how you're going to handle this. Suitable flesh.
Beautiful flesh.
Don't look on my letterbox.
I'm not. Not cheating. Not cheating. Wait. I've never seen Suitable. Can you give me just like 2 sentences what it's about?
It is, oh God, what was that film about, Rich? It was,
If I say
there
what
was
it's
like,
about, she's gonna know my
was there
rating.
like, there was like some transference and body swapping, right? Was it?
Yeah,
It
it was like
was,
H.P. Lovecraft, body swapping,
yeah,
Heather
that's what it, yeah,
Graham.
yep, that's what it was.
2.
Wow, close. He gave it a 1.
Ah,
A 1. Okay. At least
Yes.
I could kind of
you're
tell.
close. You're close. You're
Close.
close.
You're so close.
All right, we
I
got to get
feel,
this
all
guy
right.
drinking. We got to get Jerry
Yeah,
drinking here.
so
Here,
I know.
let's
Seriously,
lock
I
in.
gotta lock
Let's.
in.
We're
Yeah.
about halfway through. I think it's going to turn around for you this half. Okay, ready? Here we go. House of 1,000 Corpses.
2.5.
Wow, way off. 4.5.
Katie.
It's like 2 sips for you guys. Oh, this could be my game. This could be
Katie,
it.
Damn.
we spent like 5 days together.
That's it. All
The
right, two
problem is I
sips.
haven't seen that one either. I
All
haven't
right.
seen the Thousand Corpses
Okay,
one.
fair, fair.
All right. All right.
You
Then
should. It's good.
this probably not going to help. Lords of Salem.
All right, give me a sense. What's it about? I've never seen that one either.
There's like this evil record that possesses like all the women of the town from the witches that were hung in Salem previously.
Okay, Rich does like movies about women.
That is accurate. That is very accurate.
But It kind of sounds,
It's
I'm not sure.
witchcrafty. It's a
I'm
little
trying
bit
to
of
look at the camera. I don't want to make a
paranormal.
face.
Yeah. Just throw a number out. Throw a number out. Go for it.
Three.
Wow, close again. Two.
Ugh.
All right,
Katie,
we only get.
you might actually like that movie. I actually do
I
not like
love
that
it.
movie. You might like it. He loves it.
Okay.
I like it a lot. All right, we only have a
It's
couple.
different. It's very visual.
We only got a couple left, and I mean, if Rich is bold, then we'll flip it. But we'll leave it up to him when we're done with this because you guys are drinking a lot.
We're
But
not doing
I think,
well.
yeah, I'm gonna give about. Maybe I'll do two more, and then we'll flip it if he's
Okay.
into it. So here's an interesting film, lovely, dark, and deep.
See, it's tough when she
Four.
doesn't know the movies. It's if when she doesn't know the movie, she can't tell if I liked it or not. So
Yeah.
that's a tough
Did
one.
you give it a four? Did you say four?
I'm saying, I'm just gonna say four.
And
Give it
she's
a two.
okay.
I
Well,
love it. I love it.
Damn, I
Okay.
hate this
All right.
game.
So this
this
is
game
exciting.
sucks.
So this game is the best game that's ever been invented because I'm winning. This is the last one, and
And I'm
this
hammered.
is gonna
Cool.
be
Okay.
this is gonna be interesting. This movie is called Diced.
Four and a half.
Four and a half. I'm so happy you said that, Katie. I am so happy because Rich actually gave it a zero.
I knew that it was gonna be one or the other. I knew it. I knew it.
Yes.
You mean it was either gonna be
gave
high or
it
low? Is that
a
what you
zero. You
thought?
gave it a
Diced.
zero.
Zero.
That's four
That's like
forceps, guys.
what?
That's
Four. Yeah.
damn.
Wait, 4 minus 0 is what? Sorry.
Rich, you feeling bold? Do you want to flip it and you
Wait, what
guess
does that
mine
mean?
and you guess mine
Ooh.
and then Katie could choose who she wants to drink with.
Yeah.
You want to do a few?
So wait, let me just say, if I get it right.
If you get it right, I drink.
Oh, okay. All right. See, I can't
Okay, I'm on
remember.
Rich's team
Oh
because
no.
Rich is on mine.
All
I
right.
gotta continue.
I
So.
can't even remember what I gave these movies. So like, how am I gonna remember what you gave them?
Listen,
Okay.
I think you know my style. Listen, I'm gonna
All
throw
right.
you a softball, and then we'll start it from there. Okay.
All right, I got you, Katie. I gotta get
All
us
right.
through this.
Okay, okay.
Listen,
I'm gonna save this.
I'm gonna throw you a softball right now. Okay, ready? House of a Thousand Corpses. What did I give it?
4.5.
You're wrong. I gave it a five.
Yeah,
I
that's the shit
said
I
gave you a
half. But margin of
softball.
error. Margin of error.
All right.
You got to give us like a half. You got to give us a half as a margin of error, or I'm
You
not
want me to
playing.
give you a half?
You got
All
to
right,
give
I'll
us a half because like
I'll give you a
there's too many
half.
numbers.
Not really. It's 0 through 5.
Yeah, but it's like 10. There's 10 different combinations. It's too much.
Well, I mean,
You got to give me a half.
oh, okay. All right. I mean, you were on the show.
I mean, I'm drunk. You know?
All right. I'll give you a half margin.
I mean, we
Okay.
lost every one of these.
Either way, I'll
Like,
give you
this
a
game-
half. I'll give you a
Everyone.
half.
sucks.
I was
I'll
close on a couple too.
Yeah,
I'll
I
give-
mean, you know.
I'll give you a half both ways. All right.
All right,
Ready?
half.
What did Jerry give Night Swim?
1.5.
All right. I'm gonna drink.
You
Plus,
give
I
it a
gave
2,
it
right?
two.
You give it a
Yes.
2, yeah.
So I'm gonna drink a half.
The margin of error, man.
Okay.
Margin of error.
We're rolling now. Lords of Salem.
4.5.
Nailed it. You nailed it.
All right. Woo! We got one. Yes.
There we go. Four and a half for me. See
You
how
got your
quickly
4.5
I
sips.
run?
Okay, he's gonna catch up now. Cool.
Mhm.
I just need to get 10
Yeah,
more
there
of
we
these.
go. There we go.
I gotta
We'll
get
all be
10
on the same level.
I gotta get 10 more right, and then we're good.
That was brutal, man. It sucks losing.
Wait,
All
Katie,
right.
no, don't drink yet.
I'm just drinking anyways.
Okay, fuck it. I mean,
Rich,
rules.
what did I give House of the Devil?
5.
So close, but I have to drink to it. 4.5.
Woo, see? Margin of error,
Yeah, it's the
baby.
half. It's the half.
The halves are what fuck us up.
All right.
Oh
All right.
yeah.
What did I give Thanksgiving?
4.
All right, I gave it a 3. So
All right, so we got one.
You
All right.
lost.
Okay,
You got
we
one.
drink.
It happens, you know. Even the best lose sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I have one left, and like we normally do on this show, Katie, we like to place a little bet on the last
Ooh.
one. And usually what we do is we double whatever the maximum is. So,
Okay.
so Rich, you could do anything from 0 to 10 sips on this last one. What are you going to wager, or are you just going to keep it as is?
You know what? I usually like to live dangerously, but Katie and I lost this entire thing, and I don't want to put her through that or myself, my liver through that. I'm not wagering on this one. I can't.
All right, so just whatever it is what it is.
Yeah, because we still got two movies to talk about. Like, yeah,
Okay,
whatever it is
all
what it
right.
is. Yeah.
So here we go. All right, for the last one with no wager. What did I give stop motion?
Three.
Nailed it. You should have
Oof.
bet.
Damn. Damn.
Wow.
All right, we'll
How
take
was
three.
stop motion? I haven't seen it. Was it is
So my first impression of it when I was watching it, I was kind of like, I don't know about this movie, but afterwards, like I couldn't stop thinking about it. It's worth watching. It's very different
okay.
and it's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's a weird vibe and it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense while you're watching it, but if you like dissect it, like you could really get into it. And I think my
Mm.
main thing is that there's a lot of things that they don't tell you, which is either bad writing or really good writing and just wants you to think, and I can't really tell.
Mm.
But I recommend it. It's worth watching. I would check it out.
I'll watch it tonight. I mean, I have Shudder. It's on there. I was gonna watch it last weekend, but I watched It's What's Inside instead. But stop motion is next on my list.
Yeah, it's worth checking out just for something different. And but like again, you might be like, what am I watching? And then afterwards, like, oh wow, that was actually really thought-provoking. Like I liked it
Okay.
more when we talked about it through the episode. I was like, oh wow, there's so much I didn't pick up on. So it's
Cool.
worth checking out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely a
Awesome.
story within a story, and I think it's super interesting. And I was definitely drawn to one of those stories that I just kept thinking about, and it's definitely an eerie feel. So I highly recommend it.
Eerie.
Yeah, it's worth watching.
Awesome. I'll check it out.
All right, well, that was like probably the worst drink game I ever played. And basically, fuck you, Jerry. And we're probably not going to get to episode 21 now because of this.
Oh my God. I finally won a game, and yeah, I guess it was bad. It's only funny when I lose.
Yeah, Katie,
Max out
like,
on drinking before you turn 21. Great.
right? Yeah, Katie, Jerry loses every drink game we ever play. And this is the first time that
Horribly.
I
I
got really
lose
fucked up
horribly.
every time. So
Just give him this one.
we'll give him one. We'll
Please.
give him
Thank
one.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you for the 20th episode. Thank you.
All right,
That's
so we're going to talk about right now. Let's talk about this new movie, It's What's Inside, which is on Netflix. It's not necessarily a horror movie. It's more of like a sci-fi comedy
Really?
thriller-ish. But it was really interesting. So, like, I'll give the plot really quick. A plot is a group of friends gather for a pre-wedding party that descends into an existential nightmare when an estranged friend arrives with a mysterious game that awakens long-hidden secrets. And what that mysterious game is I forget how many party goers there are. Maybe there's eight of them, and they get hooked up to this machine, which makes them switch bodies, which is super interesting. And then people get to be each other, and they kind of play this game where you have to guess who's in whose body. As the night unfolds, certain people decide they don't want to switch back. I kind of like being this other person, and they explore various fantasies, which I'm going to be honest with you. Right when I started this movie, within the first 5 minutes, I was like, I hate this movie. I'm not going to like this movie. Why am I watching this movie? Because, and I'll tell you why. I have a hard time with these like newer kind of, I want to say they're like really targeting Gen Z with just how they use technology and the dialogue, and just it was like super annoying to me at first. But I was like, I'm gonna stick with it because I said I'd watch it and Katie recommended it. Once it gets to like that the 20-minute mark of like when they actually explain the game, I was like, holy shit, I've never seen a movie like this before. This is like a really interesting like plot device, like which I thought was a really cool way of telling a story. And I'm not going to say I loved the movie, but I liked it. I liked it a lot more than I thought. I really appreciated it just based on a really original story idea. And it made me think like, what if I like was in somebody else's body? Like, how would I feel? Like, would I want to go back? Would I want to be them? And like, what if something happened tragically, which happens in this movie, where some people end up dying, and then you can't go back into that body? Like, what do you do? So I found it really interesting, and I definitely, again, liked it more than I thought. Katie, like, what you chose this movie? I think maybe because you just recently watched it, but did you really enjoy it, or like, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually felt the same way as you, where my friend puts this movie on, and I'm like, at first I wasn't sure because you're right, it did feel very like Gen Z targeted, like as a lot of new Netflix films are. But then as it went on, I thought it was, first of all, I thought the direction was really cool. It felt very like electric and new, and it was the pacing of it was so fast, like I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And I think it really does mirror like how fast the world is now and how also short our attention spans are. So it was like fast, but easy to keep up with because like now we're used to these like short videos. So even from the beginning, the filmmaking was like very quick, these like very quick cuts and a lot of information on the screen at once of like colors and sounds and but I think that's how our brains are wired more and more is to like take in all this information. So it felt very fast paced and then yeah, as it went on, again, I like philosophy in movies, so it did make me think like, oh my God, yeah, like what would it be like to be in someone else's body? It's a very like depersonalizing feeling, but like what if you got used to it and then you like this new reality? And what if that becomes their new reality? I mean, even with like VR and stuff, people say that one day we'll get to a point where we can like see each other through like a filter and like what filter do I want to use? So it's cool. It's like, what is the concept of self? Like once you start to remove these like physical aspects of yourself, like what is it? Like is it what's inside, that makes you who you are? Is it a mix of inside and outside, or is it just what's inside? And I thought that like philosophical concept was really interesting. So that's what drew me to the movie the most.
Yeah, one thing I like, the one thing that got me that like really made me think a little bit like early on in the movie is they're in different bodies and like these two people kind of are in like this room together and like they're like the people in the body are like a couple already, but they're like looking at like different people and it's like I always wanted to like fuck this person but like I couldn't because I was with you and like why don't we just like fuck now? You could have your fantasy of being with this but you're really with me. And then like the person walks in with like her actual body and it completely like trips her out and it's just such like a weird mind-blowing experience and I think like I could totally picture playing this at a party like right? Like it's like oh we're like it's like I could hook up with the person I've always wanted to with no strings or it's like someone different but like is it different? It's like it's such a like you said, it's like is it like the physical aspect of this person I like, or is it like their personality? And I just found that like a really interesting thing that I didn't think this movie would make me think, and it did.
It definitely made me think too. Yeah, it's like it makes you ponder the question of like what constitutes who you are as a human being. Like I don't know, if you suddenly like lose certain physical parts of yourself, like I don't know, you're in a freak accident even, and then you look like completely not like yourself at all, like you're still yourself, right? Or so then take that concept and like put your soul or your essence into like another person's body, like you're still yourself, right? It's like, what is it, And then say you're hooking up with that person like it poses in the movie, you're hooking up with the inside, right? But with a different outside. But then what if you were to hook up with the outside of the first person is like it's like what is who you are? And I don't really know how to answer that question still. It just makes you think and I haven't come to a conclusion yet. So I like it.
Yeah, and I think you also pointed on kind of like the filmmaking and the movies. There's a lot of really bright
Yeah.
colors, and it's really interesting
Hmm.
to look at, and it did feel very fresh and new. It did remind me a bit of that movie Bodies, 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 which is a movie I didn't like, but just the way it was like lit and like shot, it felt very similar to that movie, just with a like I feel like a smarter concept. Jerry, I know. What do you feel? How'd you like this movie?
I went into this film completely blind. I had no idea what it was going to be about. Now, I was kind of surprised that it was kind of heavy with like those existential like
Yeah.
tones and stuff like that. And I thought for a Gen Z film, I thought it might have been just like a little bit too much, but I did kind of find myself like really kind of wrapped up into like that kind of like body swapping game and really similar. I know they mentioned it during while they were playing. It's like that werewolf game, which is like the social deduction kind of game where like people are assigned specific characters and they're either like the werewolf or the villagers, and you're supposed to guess who the people are. And I thought that was like super interesting where they were like guessing who each other were based on like their little nuances. Like I call you Rich, but like maybe someone calls you R or something like that. So they'll know right away, like, oh, that's got to be Katie or that's got to be Jerry or something like that. I thought that was like super, super interesting and a concept I'd never seen before. But the problem is by the time they got to the round two of the game, um, I just feel like the mood changed. I wasn't as interested in. They were just trying to kind of create like a bit of like a melodrama, and there was like a lot of like bickering and nonstop, and it was just getting really confusing of like who was who with these
I did get
characters.
confused.
Yeah, there was like minimal character development, so I did not recognize the nuances of each character. And then when they actually switched to like the real character for a second and showed you that character, and that's who it really was, and then flip back, I'm like, oh, wait, what character was that? It feels like a film that you have to watch more than once. And
Yeah.
I would definitely watch it more than once. It was interesting. Again, something I never saw before. Super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, my main note on this movie, why like I liked it, but I didn't love it because it was really confusing. And I think it either needed to have less characters or just develop them more.
Less
I think there might
characters,
have been
yeah.
too many characters.
Yeah.
And again, even though they had like their names and the pictures like on them, which kind of helped you identify, I was still like, wait, who's Forbes? Who's that? Like I really had a hard time remembering all of the names and like just who was who. And it does get very confusing towards the end, other than like basically the two main characters who like you're supposed to follow, like this couple who's on the verge of a breakup kind of thing, like them. But like it did get really confusing, and then there is like this big twist in the end, which I'm not going to give away because I didn't fully understand it, but I was really confused by the twist, and I had to like I watched it and then I like rewound the last 10 minutes because I was like, wait, that made no sense to me at all, and like I get it now, but it wasn't really necessary, number one, and two, it was confusing. It's like, wait, now you're introducing a whole nother character that like nothing to do with this entire movie this whole time. Which again, maybe if I watch it on the rewatch, I'll be like, oh, that was brilliant. But I don't know, just because like it was really confusing. It was a bit of a mess, I think. And again, I don't know if it was just the writing needed to be a little better, or like I said, less characters, or maybe just my brain just couldn't take in all the information that was there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like at some point I put aside like maybe I did this with the movie Tenet too when I first watched it. I put aside my need to like understand it because I was like, I don't understand, like I can't follow
Yeah,
along. So
same.
I'm just gonna like play with it, you know what I mean? Maybe if it was just four characters, that would have been equally as good and way more easy to follow along. Like just like these two couples switch with each other, and then it becomes like two versus two, and then maybe one of them dies, you know? Still would have worked, you know? I agree with you. I feel like the problem was that there were too many characters and I couldn't keep up with the names. I was like, I give up on trying to keep up with it. I'm just gonna like just dive into the philosophy in my head and forget about like the trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and I think if I wasn't watching it for the show, I could have done that. But I'm like, man, I gotta like sound intelligent when I talk about this, so like I should probably pay
Right.
attention and know who these people are. Yet I felt stupid. But you're right. If I probably just would have went into it and just be like, it's just entertainment. It's just a Netflix movie. I shouldn't have to think too hard about it. But I will also say, like, finally, like a Netflix movie that I enjoyed because they're usually
Yeah,
terrible.
but they bomb the ending though, as usual. It's
Yeah,
like they
true.
get they get an hour and 20 minutes into a film. You're like, this is awesome. Wrap it up, guys. Hit a home run. And then they just bomb the ending. And I kind of feel like the double cross plot twist at the end, it was petty, if anything, but and again, it did add like some more confusion and more characters, and it was like related back to like some sort of high school story that everyone was talking about, but no one could agree on actually what had happened. So it was like, was this warranted? Was all of this warranted? Did all these people deserve this? Or was this just like a crazy person that took advantage of like this weird tech experiment? And I think that's kind of like where this film failed a little bit, was just kind of like nailing the ending.
Yeah, I have that complaint about a lot of I think most Netflix movies is they're like really good concepts, they're well done, and then they just fall apart. And I think I just feel like I picture like eight different old men in like suits, like trying to figure out what the ending. They take a script and be like, yeah, great, like we're gonna do this and like make it like this and like completely tinker with it and like fuck it up because like they all kind of have these endings that like are just feel like tacked on, which is how I felt this was. Like I felt like the movie was over, and then it was like, oh yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna add like 20 more minutes like of just that's yeah. I feel that way about like almost all of the Netflix movies, which is why I hardly watch them.
I wish that they had ended it. You know when like you don't know if the one girl is gonna like die from the peanut butter. I wish that
Yeah.
they had ended it at that moment so we don't really know what happens, you know? And then it's like you just I wish that more movies would end on like a note of mystery, which I feel like they don't these days. Like they want to wrap it up, but I feel like you don't always have to wrap it up. Like you can just end on like a note of uncertainty, and I think that makes people think about it more rather than like trying to create this whole convoluted thing.
Yeah, I like that better when movies end that way. Unfortunately, I think most of like America doesn't, right? Because that's usually people will like go crazy over that
Yeah,
stuff.
got
But
to
I'm
put
with
period
you.
on it.
Right.
I'd rather like let me like debate it and like think about like what it could have been. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of my favorite movies are the ones that end ambiguously or like again where it could go a different way. Like it makes you think and it gives you something to talk about. And it makes you remember the movie more, when you're just like actually like come up with your own ideas to what could have happened. I'm the same way. I prefer that.
Yeah, as to what could have happened for sure. Like honestly, the one film that I can't stop raving about Talk to Me because I felt like Talk to Me was a movie that like nailed the ending. Like it was just so good. Because they did like wrap it up, but it was like this ending where you feel like you died alongside the character, and then like suddenly it opens to like her being on the flip side of the possession game. So it's like, oh wow, they like wrapped it up in a very intelligent way where it like ties to the beginning somehow. Where I felt like with It's What's Inside, it was like they just threw in like another plot point that like didn't tie to the rest of the movie, like you guys said, and it was very confusing.
The other thing I thought that was weird about the movie that like took me out of it was their choice in music. Like there were some
Mm.
bizarre music choices and like it just didn't match the movie or the theme. Like I don't know, it just threw me off a lot where they had these like songs that didn't fit. It was hard to tell like what time period this movie took
Yeah, it's
place
ambiguous. Yeah, like
because
with
they
time
like
period. Yeah.
because the music was all different eras and maybe that was the point, but it was like I was like, oh, why is that song playing? That's odd. Like and
Right,
to me
right, right.
music's really important in a movie and like when I notice it like that, like music could be really effective where you're like, oh, that fits the scene, or sometimes it's like, wait, I'm thinking about the song and not paying attention.
Yeah, they're working too hard on the vibe and the nostalgia and trying to like push that along with this complicated plot line. But I do want to say I think this film was gorgeous and it looked great and it was
Yeah.
like filmed beautifully. And I did actually really did like, the acting in it and I did like the actors and it was believable when they, kind of body swapped and they became someone else. I was like, all right, that's cool. I kind of believe that this is another person, and I liked how they like played around with that and they really kind of made like the tension like between like these people who clearly had a lot of past and a lot of strained parts of the relationship, and the only thing I wish is instead of maybe tacking on that ending is maybe they built like these characters up for maybe like 10 minutes during this film. So you like kind of choose one and pick one where you're just like, oh, I love this character and I want to see how they like kind of like progress throughout this film. And they didn't do that. So I didn't know if I was rooting for the couple. I didn't know if I wanted them to go back to their original person. I mean, me personally, if I got stuck in like the richest person's body, I'm like, I'm staying, like fuck you
I
guys,
would have
I'm
smashed
staying.
that machine.
Yeah.
Pour
I'm
my
like
beer on it.
that dude had two mil in his bank account. I'm like, I don't know, guys, where'd the machine go? It's missing, But yeah, I mean, that was like, really my problem, with the film is that it was a really interesting plot, but the execution just left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, but look, I am gonna probably watch it again at some point and see if there's like nuances I picked up on. And maybe the next time I watch it, I will go in it more like I'm just gonna enjoy this for what it is and not really overthink it, and maybe I'll like it a little more. So we do have another movie to talk about tonight, and I know it's getting a little late for those East Coasters. So like let's wrap this one up. So what we do, Katie, for this is we do rate
Hmm.
these movies. As you know, we rate them, as you know from Jerry's Drinking Game, if you could remember.
Uh-huh.
If you haven't blacked out yet, we rate them on a scale of 0 to 5 bloody knives. You could do halves. And what we do when we have a guest is we do this. So you're going to give your rating, and whatever number of bloody knives you give it are the number of seconds Jerry and I needs to drink. Then I'm going to give a rating, and Jerry needs to drink that number of seconds. And then he's going to give a rating, and I need to drink that number of seconds. However, since you are here as a guest, you need to pick one of us that you will drink with. So if you pick me, you will drink when Jerry gives his rating. If you pick Jerry, you will drink when I give my rating. And the strategy is you want to pick who you think hated the movies the most. However, we do have one more to go, so you don't know how I feel about that one. You know how I feel about this one. So, but I'll let you choose.
So I think you like the movie more than Jerry. So I think I should pick Jerry because I think that Jerry didn't like the movie that much.
That's probably a good move, although he might love the next one. But I think you made the right choice. I think you made the right choice.
I'm also the
Okay.
winner of the last drinking game, so I'm running on a high right
So
now that
stick with the
could,
horse that's winning.
yes.
All right, so Katie,
Yes.
let's give your rating first, 0 to 5 bloody knives. What do you get this one?
I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Okay, you know what? I expected
Wow.
that. You did pick it, so I will drink Jerry and I cheers. We're gonna drink 3.5.
Wow.
Oh, it's a long night.
Yeah, no ice. Oh, whoa.
Okay, let's see. I'll give mine and then you two drink. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a three. I actually did. I
The
liked
fuck?
it. I enjoyed it. I liked it, and I didn't love it, but I liked it. So three. Give
Wow,
me
I'm
Okay.
shocked. I'm shocked.
finish that White Claw, Katie. Let's see it.
Yeah, actually, that's literally, yep, 3 seconds here.
Woo!
Oh my God.
All
I'm
right,
shocked.
crushes it, and she just crushed the camera
Crushes
forehead.
it.
All right, Cherry, what do you give this one?
I am shocked that you gave it a three. I mean, I thought it was interesting and it was a great concept. I am gonna watch it again because I do, want to maybe pick up some things that maybe I didn't understand, and maybe when I'm not taking notes, I'll find it a little more like just enjoyable as a film. So for now, I'm giving it a 2.5.
Okay, so you liked it too.
Average.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think I gave it a three because again, I'd never seen this before, and like I do give
Yeah.
credit to new ideas. Like we see so many things, there's rehashes of the same shit, and whenever I see like a new story, I find it really interesting. And it was the way they told the story was very different. It was interesting. Do I wish it was written differently? Yes, but good
hmm
enough. All right.
I would love to see that concept in another film with maybe even just two characters, honestly. Like I love the concept of like body switching for some
Yeah,
reason. So
it's a really cool fucking idea, and I think like done
yeah.
differently, it could have been like perfect. If you did something like this and instead of making it more, and when I say Gen Z, I mean like a movie that like a 50-year-old guy made, and it's like trying to think of what Gen Z would think. Like that's what I picture. Like I'm not saying that's who wrote this movie because I have no idea, but that's what I like
hmm
picture. It's like a guy who's out of touch trying to make like a movie for Gen Z or female, maybe a female did this movie. I have no idea. But I think if it was done like more art, like if this was like a French art film, it could have been super fucking cool.
You know what's funny? I actually wrote I'm not gonna say what exactly it is. I'll talk to you later about it, Rich. But I did talk to you about it. Remember I told you months ago when we were first talking, even before we talked about Major, I told you about a short that I had written. It's a body swapping
Oh, you
short.
did.
I
Yes,
said,
you did.
That's
Yeah.
remember?
awesome.
So that maybe that's also why I was so drawn to this film was because like I had wrote something like in a similar sort of vein, but with just like one character who becomes like another version of himself. And it's cool. I think a lot of film, even the substance is like kind of touching on that, right? Where
Kind
it's
of.
like,
Yeah.
it's like this self-elevation, which I think is like a big theme in society right now. So I am finding these kinds of films like really fascinating.
Okay, so that was It's What's Inside. We took a quick break to get drinks, and instead of a White Claw, Katie now has a ginormous glass of red
Jeez.
wine, which looks like three different
It's a
glasses of
pint
wine.
glass.
So if you finish that, oh, she just if you
Cheers, cheers.
if you finish that glass, and she's already like before we even like hit record, she was already drinking it. So I think this is gonna be a fun last segment. And
So
I mean,
excited.
if you get through that, I am impressed. Okay, so we're going to talk about one more movie. We are going to talk about Strange Darling, which came out in theaters pretty recently, actually. And it was cool to see a movie like this get a theatrical release. I didn't get to see it in theaters, though. I did watch it at home. I know, Katie, you talked about this movie a while ago to me. Before you get too drunk off that red wine, why don't you, could you give us the plot?
Ooh, okay, let me give you the plot without giving away spoilers. So, a one night stand turns into a twisted cat and mouse game between a man and a woman, and it's taught in a nonlinear fashion, and you at no point know exactly how it's going to end until the end.
That is a very accurate description, and it's yeah, when you like read what the plot of the movie is, you're like, okay, I've seen this before, but definitely the way it's told is very different, and it is told out of sequence. It is broken down into six chapters and an epilogue, and I think it starts with like chapter four or five. It gets you right into the action, and you're kind of like, what the fuck is happening? And you're kind of like, what the fuck is happening for probably the first like 45 minutes of the movie, just because of the way it skips around, and it gives you like bits and pieces that fill in the story. And I think that was really effective because I think if they would have told it in a linear fashion, it just wouldn't have hit as hard. It just would have felt like because again, there's nothing super complex about it. It's like the way it all comes together and the way you kind of figure out various pieces that make it interesting, where you're like, oh, and kind of pretty much like it's going to be a tough one to talk about this one without spoiling it, but how it starts is like
Yeah.
not how you think. And even though it starts, I think with chapter five, it's like how it ends is like not how you think it's going to end. Like it's not what you
Hmm.
think. And maybe you could figure it out along the way. Like I kind of had some inklings just because like it's got to be something interesting, but yeah, you definitely do not know what's coming next. And I definitely got into it. It was definitely a vibe. And I think I think I said earlier, like it's one of those movies that like I wish I would have made because it's very clever. It's very clever the way it's
Yeah, very
done
clever.
and very bold as to like how they were able to pull this out. So yeah, I definitely liked it a lot. There's definitely things I didn't like about it that we'll get into in a minute. But what did y'all think? So Katie, like, what are your thoughts on this movie?
I personally liked it because maybe it's because I'm very gullible, but I genuinely did not see the twist coming whatsoever, and that was my favorite thing about it was that like I didn't even read the description. I had no idea what I was getting into, and it opens up to the shot of like a car going up a hill. And then suddenly this woman is like running through the streets and then into the woods. And I think immediately it captured my attention based on I mean, the way it was shot on like 35 millimeter, the color of it, the pacing, and the performance from Willa Fitzgerald was so good. Like I just immediately was like, oh my God, what am I in for? And I like that it had a little description at the beginning. I forget what it said, but it was like this movie is XX, and I thought that was interesting. I'm like, okay, it's like the filmmaker is sort of feeding you something, and then boom, it just gets right into it. And it kept this tension all throughout, which I really enjoyed. So I like the way it was shot. I like the performances. I like the visuals of it, and I like that the twist genuinely got me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. The visuals, it's like very colorful and like saturated. There's a lot of red. And it's funny, I always say like don't shoot in like a red room because it never looks great, but there's like some scenes that are in a room that's red that look really good. Yeah, so they did the cinematography is really good. The acting, I think both, I don't know the actor of the male lead's name, but he was really good too. And really the movie is just these two characters. There's some other characters kind of thrown in there, but it really is just man and a woman like kind of hunting each other basically. And yeah, it's really well shot and it does get you right from the beginning where you're just like, okay, I'm in. Like, what is gonna fucking happen? And like, how did we get to this point? You know, it definitely keeps you guessing for sure.
It's also really disturbing at times.
It's very disturbing at times. And like it's funny, the
Yeah.
one scene that got me, and I was like into the movie, but the scene that really got me is I think it's like chapter three or something. It's right in the middle when it's kind of going through when they first kind of met, and they're in like a hotel room, and like they already have like a joke as to like, are you a serial killer or not? And the guy's like, no, 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 I'm not. And they're having this like kind of like trying to be kinky sex, but it's like not really working out, and she's getting bored. And then like he tries to like have vanilla sex with her and that doesn't work and then he snaps and almost like you think he's going to do terrible shit to her and it's so intense and you're like oh my god like this movie took a fucking turn and then there's like a twist and you're like oh man like I didn't see that coming either and like it was just great performances in that moment like that hotel scene like in the middle of the movie is really fucking good. Like I rewound it, I was like I gotta watch that again, like I gotta see that again because I'm like I think I missed something.
Dude, Rich, you know what works really well too was that, again, some listeners will know what I'm talking about when I say this, but the male lead has played a villain slash a serial killer in other series before. So, aha.
Ah.
So, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I mean, so again, I went to this blind just like the both of you, and when the story was kind of set up with that prologue, I'm like, oh, this sounds like it's going to be a super basic film, and I got a little concerned, but then it just drops you right into chapter three with this car chase, and you really don't know what's happening, and it's kind of action packed, and like, why is this person running? Who's this person chasing her? It was really, really interesting. And then I was like, oh, it's still going to be generic. They're still going to like go with the same old tropes. But you know what? Every time I thought they were going to do that, they actually didn't. And it kept it very, very interesting. And as a viewer, it really kept me on my toes. And I like that because I didn't know where it was going to go. And yeah, of course, we've all seen like non-linear films before. I'm like, this person is not Quentin Tarantino. They're just going to blow it. They're not going to be able to do this right. But I think they did a great job putting this out of sequence. If you put it in sequence, it was pretty basic. You could kind of maybe see what's happening, but out of sequence, totally worked for this film. And you all were just talking about the look of the film. Did you know that Giovanni Ribisi was the first time cinematographer
It's funny. I was
for
just gonna
this
get to that
film?
note, which is
Yeah,
like
I
I
mean,
couldn't believe that either. I was like, what?
I love him as an
Mhm.
actor. Huge
Mhm.
fan of his from Boiler Room.
I love that
Yeah, I
movie.
love that film, and I was shocked to see that he was connected to a film like this. And this film was
Mhm.
definitely dark. This film was disturbing, and this film had so many twists and turns that I mean, you just didn't know, and it's hard to talk about it without doing any spoilers. And I guess that's what we're going with. We're not doing any spoilers,
We're gonna
but
try. Yeah, we're gonna try.
I say, there's a lot of crazy things that happen and it's worth the watch. Check it out because I mean, whether you like the cat and mouse aspect, whether you like, like a dark serial killer kind of story, I mean, it's all kind of there. I liked it a lot.
So something happened in this movie that like was I wouldn't say triggering to me, but I was like, oh my God, like I know where this is Kai is coming from, and like I'm thankful like to have survived. So like they're in the hotel room and like they've kind of like almost like had sex a few times, but like it's clearly not working out. And the female character, I can't remember their names, I apologize, but the female character,
They had no names. She was lady and he was
he was
she
and
was
he was
he's
demon or
devil.
something, right? Devil or
He's
demon?
devil.
He's
Yeah,
devil.
yeah. They didn't
Yeah,
have names.
so
They didn't have names.
okay,
They didn't have
so the lady like, they're about to do like drugs which he thinks is like cocaine. So they do
Yeah.
cocaine and he's still trying to like hook up and she's just like no. And the guy's just like kind of like sitting around and like waiting like am I going to hook up? Am I not going to hook up? And I've been in so many situations where you're just like what is actually happening and you tend to hang around too long, like you got to like you like knew early on like this wasn't going to work out, but yeah, you're like, you know what? Maybe
Uh-huh.
there's a chance. You're like, I've come all this way. Like, we've already
It was
drank.
so awkward. It
And
was
like,
awkward in
but
the
I've been in that
car.
moment. And like, every time, like, at some point, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bail now. And like, maybe if I wouldn't have bailed when I bailed, something like this would have happened to me. I don't know. And like, you have to see the movie to know what I'm talking about. But like, I'm in this moment with this guy. I'm just like, oh my God, I know what this is like when you're just sitting on the bed and you're like, I've been here for 3 hours. Like, what is gonna happen? Like, it never ends well. So like, I was
I,
like, I feel you.
I,
I feel you,
I,
buddy.
I think it was so awkward. It was like, honestly, you couldn't even like deal with it. I do feel like some of those scenes kind of went on a little bit too long, and some of the chapters went a little bit too quick. So I was having a hard time trying to like really lock into like what I thought was going to be the most important things to kind of lock into because it was like kind of switching like pretty quick. So I felt like it kind of lagged a little bit in the hotel and when they were kind of drinking in the car, and I was like, man, this is awkward. And then once they got into the room, I was like, these people are like strangers. And it definitely brings up a lot of like, societal issues and things like that. I feel like, she's talking about her issues and, what it's like to be like a female in these situations. And this guy looks like a complete dirtbag just trying to get laid. So, I mean, there was just
Yeah.
so much like tension and like, what kind of game is going on here and how dangerous is this for this woman, and you're starting to
Mhm.
feel like that tension, and you kind of want the guy to leave,
Mhm.
you want him to leave, and then but you're like, but wait, chasing her later, it's like, how did we get there? And it was so fucked up. And the only thing I want to talk about, then we'll go to Katie, is when she's like kind of hiding out like in that house for those weird mountain people, which I loved,
Mhm. Me
because they were
too.
like obsessed with like Sasquatch, which
Uh-huh.
which is always funny. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know
Mhm.
why. I always find that funny. But I mean, there's like this giant house and she decides to hide like in a freezer. And I just thought that was like such like a dumb thing to do. It's like, like I'm an expert hide and seek player. And rule number one is hide somewhere where someone doesn't think you could fit. So
Mhm.
a closet, under a bed, in a big freezer, those are all places someone's gonna look. So I thought it was a little like kind of weak that she ended up there. And I know they used it for the plot, but to me, it's like it didn't make sense that she would hide there for that character. It just didn't make any sense at all. So I was a little annoyed at that, but they definitely used it to their advantage.
You know what's funny? When I saw that, I was almost thinking like, did they do that? Did she hide there on purpose because she wanted in a way to be
Oh,
caught?
interesting.
That's
Oh,
that's where my brain went because whenever I'm watching something, I try to
but he
rationalize
had
it
a
because my brain
gun.
can't accept like
Would you roll that dice on that though? He had a gun. I don't know if I would roll that dice. I don't know. I mean, I think you have a great point there that she was kind of banking on that, but I mean, yeah, good point.
or maybe
Well,
perhaps like she wanted to be caught and she was over. She just
Mm,
wanted to like end it all there, you know?
yeah,
I
good
don't
point.
know.
Great
I think
point.
she
Good
even
point.
says something where I think she was like at one point like welcoming death, and then when it was like staring her in the face, she
Right.
realized she didn't want it. So at that
Yes,
point,
that part.
maybe she
Mhm.
was kind of, or again, or maybe it was part of her plan. It just wasn't a good plan. She was kind of in survival mode by that point. I agree,
Yeah.
though, it's not a good hiding place, and that's probably the
No.
worst. That was probably the honestly, that's probably the worst hiding place she could have gone to at that point. Anywhere else would have been better than that, especially in an enclosed spot, like even again under a bed, because then at least you could see someone coming and go for their
Keep
feet or
coming.
something.
Yeah.
Like that's like a really terrible spot. I have like one, and I agree, some of it is a little slow at points, but I kind of like that because it was tense. My one takeaway from the movie is why like I didn't love it, and I am gonna watch it again, is I did feel that chapter 6, the very end of the movie, really dragged. I
Mm,
felt that the last half, maybe 20 minutes, half hour was just so slow.
Wow,
And it
yeah.
was like you got to this point, like once you figured out the twist and everything, there's still a lot more to go. And it just kind of like you're like, all right, you guys got to just wrap this up. I know they probably did this for artistic purposes, but that really long shot that ends the movie of basically
Oh,
the
with her in
car
the car?
with the car. It's so just a setup for people who haven't seen the movie. The last, I'm going to say 5 minutes of the movie is literally a shot of the actress sitting in the car as the car's driving, and it just watches her. Doesn't even really go through a bunch of different emotions, but like kind of like goes through something. But it's you're just like, okay, like something's gonna happen after this. The credits are coming, and it just went on for so long, and it was like I didn't want to turn it off because I was like, something's gonna happen, but nothing ever does. And when I rewatch it, I know just to turn it off at that point. But I was so disappointed. I was like, why'd you make me sit through all that? Like it was just annoying. And again, they probably thought it was a brilliant artistic choice, and I'm sure there's gonna be some reviewers that think that was like the most
yeah, we're gonna
amazing
get some
thing.
hate mail for that.
I was like, you just got to
I
wrap
think
this shit up.
Yeah, I think once the plot unfolds, I mean, that's what we're all waiting for. We're all trying to understand like where this film was going and what the end point is. I think once it got to that point, you were definitely like checked out. You're like, all right, I get it. How's it gonna end? And it ended a little, ambiguous, I think. I don't think it was crystal clear exactly what was gonna happen. So, I mean, maybe that was interesting, but there was another film that we watched recently, Rich, that ended just like this with a just a weird long car shot, and that was In a Violent Nature,
Which
where
I
it's
also
just
I
like
didn't like.
which was like 10 minutes of just watching someone kind of go through, the motions for like 10 minutes. A little too long. It dragged a bit. They could have definitely chopped like 10 minutes off.
Yeah, and it's not like nothing happens in that last 20 minutes. Like stuff does happen that's interesting, but I just feel like the pacing really just slowed, and that was the point where like I needed it to kind of pick up a bit. And like I don't know, I feel like they could have cut 5 to 10 minutes out of that last chapter at the beginning of it, and then it kind of gets going. Like once other police officers show up, it kind of starts coming together. But it just kind of I was like I would yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's my take on the ending of it. It kind of almost ruined the movie for me in a way, but I still really like the movie. I enjoyed it. I recommend it.
Yeah, I recommend it just like for the reason that I recommended the other film where like it felt original to me in its own way of the plot plus the way the out of order nature that it was shot in and the cinematography and the acting. It's like everything came together in a way that I really enjoyed. And also I just really support films that are in this like budget category because I've seen so many films that are like $100 million budgets that I absolutely just hated. And it makes me upset that like you could have made, 10, 20 like $1 million like, 5, $10 million films. So I really like films in this budget category because it gives the filmmakers like enough money to be able to like do something, cast really good actors, have great locations. but still be creative and have to make creative choices because you don't have $100 million. Where I feel like a lot of those films that just have a surplus of money, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, or you just start to get less and less creative. So I tend to like stay away from huge movies like that, or not like them as much. And I really like movies in this budget category, and when filmmakers do something very creative with the money that they have. So I think that's the main thing that I liked about it.
Yeah, I think it comes down to like it's not how much money you have, it's like how clever is your story and how you tell
Yeah,
it. And again, I like they definitely spent like a good amount on this. Like you're right, it was quote unquote low budget, but I mean, wasn't nothing. You could have made this movie a
yeah.
lot cheaper and it would still been probably just as good, maybe. But it's good to see you see this movie and it's like I like it's accessible. Like I'm like as a filmmaker, I'm like, oh, I could make that movie. Now, could I make it as good as this? I'm not saying that I could make this movie and make it as good as this, but you're right. Like this is a movie that I could probably make something similar, right? Again, not might not be as good, but like it's yeah, accessible, which I appreciate. Like they didn't do anything overly complicated, and yet it was still very effective and interesting and engaging and like smart. Which is it just like creatively inspires you because you're like, wow, if other people are doing this, like people have ideas. Like it's not just like the same bullshit. I don't know. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I hope like I hope to see more, $5, $10 million feature films made. And I think that that's where the industry is going right now, where like there's not as much TV being produced, but like indie film is making a comeback, and I'm just really happy about that.
I'm trying to see if like this filmmaker did anything else that was like worth
Nah, I just
checking
did a
out.
Western.
It's always
Yeah, great
surprising to
job.
me,
I
yeah,
mean,
when
yeah.
someone comes out of nowhere and makes something like really kind of special. Yeah, that's all the notes I had. So I guess we
I,
could kind of. You have anything
I
else?
mean, without
What else you got?
spoiling, yeah, without
Yeah,
spoiling the plot, I don't have much because I'm gonna say like 80% of my notes involve spoiling the plot, and I don't want to do that because you know what? I do want people to watch this film. I do want them to kind of go in blind, and even if you listen to us and you check it out, I don't think we're giving away too much. Hopefully we're just kind of like just piquing your interest because I think this is the type of horror film you should check out. It's not overly gory. There is blood, there is plenty of just horror elements and aspects. It's very psychological. It's based really on a serial killer. So I think this will appeal to a lot of people. So I just hope people check it out. I recommend it. I liked it.
yeah, and going blind because it is a tough one when you know the ending, it's gonna play differently. And again, I'm gonna watch it again and see how I enjoy it the second time. But I do feel that a lot of the enjoyment of this movie is figuring out the mystery of it as to like what actually is happening, which
And
makes
from
it
an
fun.
acting perspective, like I thought Willa Fitzgerald did like a great job. I mean, she really went for it. Like I was like, I feel like she went really dark with it too. I'm like, I hope she's good after shooting this. I mean, like she you could tell like she was like just fully in that character. It almost reminded me of like Charlize Theron and Monsters, I think it was called,
Hmm.
right? The movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, Monsters.
the Warnos
It
movie.
reminded
Yeah.
me of that performance in a way where like they really tap into this like darkness and go for it. And I was like I was watching in awe, where it's speaking of things like I'd love to do. I'm like, oh my God, I would love to like play a role like that.
So,
Yeah, so
so as an actress, like when you play like a dark role or you do like a scene that's really dark and intense, like how do you personally like come back to reality? Like how do you compartmentalize like something traumatic, even though it's fake, it's still trauma, right? Because you're experiencing it.
Mhm.
Like how do you work through that as like, going from like actress to like human being again? Like human being like like not like a character. Or do you carry some of that with you?
I feel like it sticks with me, but I've learned how to still give a great performance, but I know like my limits, you know what I mean? Like I know where my limit is, and who knows, like maybe one day there's going to be a film where like I try to push it more. Also, I think that because I've been doing this for like a matter of like years now, like I've been doing acting for like 6 years, it's like almost like my body knows when I'm doing it, so it like accepts it, and then I'm able to shake it off. Versus like when I was first starting out, it was a lot harder for me, but now it's just gotten a lot easier because I've just done it so much that it's like it's just become much easier to snap out of it or to just like shake it off afterwards. Just like practice, I guess. Yeah.
And you were saying like that you write a bunch too. Like what kind of things do you write? Like story wise?
Story wise, like yeah, I really like writing in the psychological thriller genre, but I also like sci-fi. I like to include like philosophy and comedy into things that I write. I haven't written in a bit though. I mean, I have one script written now about a dominatrix and a hitman who fall in love that I really want to make, but it's hard because it's like, a lot of this stuff I write, it's like I need millions of dollars for it. So I'm like, okay, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna write it, put it over here. And now I'm like doing a lot more acting too. So I haven't written in a while, but in general, like psychological thriller, sci-fi, and a little bit of comedy.
hmm Cool. Very cool. And you like edgier stuff too for like I know you're drawn to a lot of that.
I do, and it's funny because I've always had like a baby face. I mean, now I'm finally like growing into it, but I've always like looked very young. So at first when I was starting, like I was offered like some Disney stuff and all that, but like I knew I didn't want to do that. So some of the first stuff I ever made was like indie horror because I'm like I didn't want to go down the like Disney Nickelodeon route. Like I was like I know what kind of acting I want to do in this world. So yeah.
Very cool that you recognize that early on, right?
Yeah, I was like 17 and I'm like, oh my God, like I love, like movies like I don't know, Nymphomaniac and what's the other one? The one that oh my God, it's the wine is getting to me right now. Rich, what's the one that I really like? The psychological thriller that a lot of people can only watch once. It's got like a lot of those. It has what's his name in it? The guy who played Joker.
Heath Ledger?
No, 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 the other Joker.
Joaquin Phoenix?
No, the other Joker.
Jared Leto? Like...
Jared Leto.
Yeah, it has Jared Leto in it. Requiem for a Dream.
Oh,
That
yes,
was my
yes.
favorite movie when I was like
Yes.
16.
Love that movie.
No, I watched that when I was like 15, 16 because my figure skating coach was like, if you want to use this score for your performance, like you've got to watch the film. And that was the moment that I fell in love with like acting and filmmaking after watching Requiem for a Dream. So I always like knew I wanted to make this sort of like darker, edgier stuff.
Okay, so getting back to this movie, Strange Darling, Katie.
Wait, what movie?
Katie, 0 to she wants to finish that one. 0 to 5. What do you?
Yeah, I
do
do actually.
What do you
Look,
give this
getting
one?
there. I'm gonna give it a 4.
Okay, Jerry and I could drink 4. That's a good rating. Cheers. All right, Katie, let me see that glass. I got to decide what my rating's going to be based on how many. Oh, you know what? Actually, I was actually going to give it a 3.5, which should finish that. Or do I need to give it a 4? No, 3.5. 3.5 I'm going to give it. So
Okay,
3.5.
3.5. I think I'll kill it.
Yeah. Jerry, that's you too.
I know, I'm getting there, bro. That's it. I'm gonna give some AMSMR here. So,
Woo! And Katie just drank the biggest glass of wine I've ever seen. It wasn't a wine glass, that was like a pint glass
Yeah.
of wine.
Then I finish it. Everything I say I'm gonna do, I do it.
That's true. You accomplish your goals. I respect that. All right, Jerry, what am I doing? What's my damage?
yeah, hold on. Damn, that was crazy. I just finished that. I'm gonna shock the world right now. Yeah, I love that fucking movie.
Get out of
and
here.
I'm gonna keep watching it, so I'm gonna give it a 4. I liked it a
Whoa,
lot.
he liked it better than we did.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I
Cheers.
liked it a lot. 4. Yeah, thanks for suggesting it. I never would have checked it out, so
Yeah.
happy I
It's
did.
very random. Found it one day.
Yeah, no, super cool movie. Wow, we actually watched 2 movies that we both kind of enjoyed. Usually there's one that we really hate the
Yeah,
fuck out of.
shocking, shocking.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Katie, for coming on. This was a blast, and I'm glad we got to like chat with you, get to know you a little bit. Excited to work with you again in the future. Again, everybody check out Katie's new movie, Made Droid Origins, on Tubi or Amazon. So, Katie K, I'll give you some more time to plug yourself and where people could find you again. If you want to share your website, Instagram, and stuff like that.
Sure. So my Instagram is at Katie, KatieKaaay, and then my website is the same thing, www.katiekaaay.com.
And then Haddonfield is going to be dropping on YouTube on Halloween.
Halloween, yeah. So check it out. Dylan Crow, another director I work with. I've loved every director I've worked with, so I'm very fortunate.
Very cool. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on. This was a blast. You could follow us on Instagram at horrorheadspodcast or email us at horrorheadspodcast@gmail.com. Jerry, what's going on for episode 21? Do we have a plan yet, or are we just figuring it
Yeah,
out?
we actually have a guest. We have a fellow podcaster.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, and we're gonna do some real creepy ass movies we're gonna talk about. So it should be pretty cool.
All right, awesome. I will look out for that list of movies so I can start watching it. All
Yeah,
right,
it's on the sheet, dude.
Yeah, I'm fucking. I can't read right now. I can barely see. All right, cheers, everybody. Good night. I'm the only one left drinking.
Cheers. Happy 20th.
Happy
Cheers.
20th.